Now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, June 15th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 17 degrees. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. A new study from the Ottawa Hospital reveals 1 in 4 who have given birth at the hospital during spring 2020 lockdown did experience abusive behavior from their partners before, during, or after the pregnancy. Here is City News reporter Alex Gouge.
The survey was administered to determine abusive behaviors and acts of emotional, sexual, or physical abuse and revealed more than 24% experienced some form during their perinatal period. Dr. Catherine Muldoon is the study lead and senior research associate at the Ottawa Hospital. She tells me some of the characteristics revealed in the survey.
There are things that are quite insidious, and it could be like insist on knowing where you are at all times, trying to keep you from seeing your friends, get angry if you speak to somebody that they might be jealous of.
She adds the study also shows those living under the median household income are 3 times more likely to experience intimate partner violence. Those who delivered at the hospital and are in need of help can contact them directly or reach out to Ottawa Victim Services and the Monarch Clinic. Alex Gouge, City News.
City News time 9:01, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
For Ottawa, the Valley, and Smiths Falls today, we'll get into some clearing after some morning showers, a gusty northwest wind, and high today 23 degrees. Tonight, clear 10, and tomorrow, sunshine 22. For today, the high 23.
And right now in both Ottawa and Smiths Falls, 17 degrees. Students and staff at Algonquin now eligible to receive their COVID-19 vaccine at the college during a week-long pop-up clinic. Health Services is booking appointments for the clinic, which will run next week at the Ottawa Campus Clinic. College officials say all vaccinations will be recorded into the Ontario COVAX vaccination management system. Students and employees who are registered with Campus Health Services can call the clinic and book their appointment. The program is available for students and staff over the age of 18. Prime Minister Trudeau has a busy schedule in Belgium today in the wake of the NATO summit. He met with the top EU officials earlier this morning and now is scheduled to tour Pfizer's vaccine manufacturing facility and then sit down with the Prime Minister and King of Belgium. His flight home is set to leave Brussels at noon Eastern Time. City News time 9:02. Is there a growing call to scrap Canada Day celebrations this year? First, Victoria, BC said it was going to do that as a sign of Indigenous healing. Now a township in Waterloo region has decided to do the same. Wilmot Township says it made the decision in light of the discovery of what are believed to be remains of 215 Indigenous children at the former residential school in Kamloops, BC. The township's Canada Day Committee chairperson says the decision is out of respect for the Indigenous community's grief. The township said event organizers will offer a public art experience in lieu of Canada Day celebration. Now at 11 o'clock this morning, Premier Doug Ford is making an announcement on residential school burial sites. The City of Ottawa is no longer under a burn ban. Ottawa Fire Service lifting the ban. Crews are reminding you do have to obtain a permit to have an open-air fire or use an outdoor wood-burning fireplace. I'm Andrew Boyle. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Good, bad, or complicated.
There's no news in Ottawa and the Valley he won't talk about.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
What does vaccinated mean? When you hear that word, what does that word mean to you? Vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. If you've only had 1 dose of a 2-dose vaccine, do you consider yourself to be vaccinated? Good morning. Welcome to the Rob Snow Show on City News. We're here until noon, and we're glad you're along for the ride. There is a headline this morning from a major Canadian news organization, and this is what it says. Quoting here. Canada tops world in vaccinated population as new COVID-19 cases fall below 1,000. Let me repeat the first part there. Canada tops world in vaccinated population. Let me say that one more time, just so we're all clear about what this headline says. Canada tops world in vaccinated population. Is that accurate? Because I have to tell you, I saw that headline this morning from Global News, and I thought, I don't really think that's accurate. We're doing okay, and really, just okay, when it comes to getting first doses into arms. But having one dose of a two-dose vaccine, does that mean you're vaccinated? These are two-dose vaccines. To enjoy the full benefit of any of the vaccines approved in this country, you need 2 doses. That's why there's this mad scramble, what I call the 2-dose scramble, on right now. Everyone wants a second dose if they manage to get a first dose. I mean, David just got his first dose yesterday. It's kind of like to mark the 6-month anniversary of Canada's vaccination program. They gave one to David. 6 months to the day, 6 months into Canada's vaccination program, David finally has 1 dose. Does that mean David's vaccinated? No, it means David is partially vaccinated. I'm not supposed to get my second dose of AstraZeneca vaccine until sometime in the middle of August. Now, maybe that will be sooner. I hope it will be sooner. But by the sounds of it, it all depends on how successfully I can compete in the vaccine Hunger Games. Headline: Canada tops world in vaccinated population. I don't know how can you report the story like that? And here's the thing. We had Dr. Isaac Bogosh on our show yesterday. He's been on repeatedly during the course of this pandemic. He is a member of Ontario's vaccine task force. And I asked the good doctor, what is the biggest risk right now here in Ontario with COVID-19? And he told me it's the Delta variant. That is the variant that has caused this week's pause in the UK's reopening plan. Emergency brake hit for the next 4 weeks because of a spike in both cases and hospitalizations because the Delta variant is the dominant strain. It is also the variant that rampaged through India, and the fear is it could slam Ontario. Why? Because so few people are vaccinated, fully vaccinated. Oh, we have lots of people who are partially vaccinated, but almost 9 out of 10 Canadians do not have a second shot. And that means 9 out of 10 Canadians are vulnerable. Listen to this, okay? Published 5 days ago, WebMD. I'm just quoting here. Quote, a study conducted in the United Kingdom that was cited by the Biden administration finds that 1 dose of the Pfizer vaccine provided about 33% protection against the Delta variant. 33% protection against the Delta variant. 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine, meanwhile, provided about 88% protection. Quote, it seems this variant can get past our first dose of vaccine, said Queen's University Belfast virologist Connor Bamford to the BBC. End quote. And this is another news story from CNN. Researchers based in the UK reported last week that most people who receive 2 doses of the Pfizer coronavirus vaccine still would have protection against the Delta variant. But people need to be fully vaccinated to be fully protected. The researchers at the Francis Crick Institute and National Institute for Health Research Biomedical Research Center said that after 1 dose of the vaccine, people were less likely to develop enough of an antibody response to protect against the Delta variant. End quote. 1 dose, Not enough. You need 2 doses. 2 doses to maximize the benefit of this vaccine, especially against the new and highly contagious Delta variant. Now, here is another news story about the Delta variant. Quote, the highly infectious Delta variant is on track to become the dominant strain of COVID-19 in Ontario. While the Alpha variant, first identified in the UK, has dominated Ontario for months, the Delta variant is quickly gaining ground as the leading strain. And then the story goes on to quote Dr. Barbara Yaffe as saying that the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines might offer, at best, between 47 and 48% protection against the Delta variant. But if you get 2 shots, you really don't have to worry about it. But see, the problem is, again, about 88% of the population of this country doesn't have the luxury of having been given 2 doses of vaccine. So tell me again, Mr. Reporter, how we're the most vaccinated people on the planet. Gosh, it's only Tuesday morning and look at me. I'm all worked up already. I'm not a media critic, okay? But I do want to get into this second dose scramble. The second dose scramble. What's it like trying to get an appointment for a second dose if you've tried? If you had no problem, I'd like to hear about that. If you had all kinds of trouble, I'd like to hear about that. It really does sound like a mad scramble out there. The sequel to the original vaccine Hunger Games. You remember it was a franchise after all. I want firsthand accounts. I'm not trolling for bad news, okay? I don't have to troll for bad news. There's bad news all over the place. It's not like you have to go looking for it. But if it was easy and painless to book a second dose, I'd like to take that call. I'd like to hear that story this morning. It's why we do the Talkback Hour on the Rob Snow Show, because we love to get firsthand accounts. We like eyewitness accounts, eyewitness news, action news. From our listeners. We like to go right to the source. So we do that every morning between 10 and 11 o'clock. Take advantage of that platform, okay? It's 750-1310. Some people don't think I should take calls on this show anymore. I tell them they're crazy. Some people think I should just do more interviews. But I like checking in with our listeners every day. It makes my day, actually. So I'd like to hear from you today. Again, the call-in line, 750-1310, 750-1310, 613 750-1310. For my money, the hottest hour of talk radio in town. We're not all about COVID and vaccines on the program today, not by a long shot. Allan Hubley chairs the Transit Commission meeting tomorrow. He's a Kanata area councillor. We're going to talk about the city borrowing $400 million to electrify the bus fleet. The notwithstanding clause has been used now, invoked in the province of Ontario, and it has provoked a lot of backlash against Premier Doug Ford. NDP leader Andrea Horwath joins me this morning, the leader of the opposition in the Ontario legislature. Professor Ian Lee from Carleton University here every Tuesday. We're going to talk about labor shortages, businesses that can't find workers. We have 8% unemployment, but we also have a labor shortage. And government benefit programs, relief programs, pandemic relief programs like the CERB getting some of the blame. StatsCan says there are 630,000 jobs waiting to be filled all across Canada, including 100,000 jobs just in healthcare. And how about this for a story? Ooh, boy, pay attention to this. It's not an Ottawa story, but, what starts in Vancouver doesn't necessarily stay in Vancouver. This is going to come up for a debate at the Vancouver City Council. Starting in 2023, if you buy a new vehicle in Vancouver and it has an internal combustion engine, you'll have to pay the city of Vancouver between $500 to $1,000 as a pollution charge. Oh, boy, wait till Ottawa's left-wing councillors hear about that great idea. It's all ahead on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
I'm blessed to be married to someone who is a scientist and spent a lot of time following what was happening over in China ahead of time. So he did give us the heads up that this was coming. Not that we believed him right off the bat, but when it did happen very, very quickly, we were prepared. We had hand sanitizer and we were set up to not close our doors. So we locked the kitchen down at Wellington Street, but we left this kitchen open. We put in protocols immediately. We only allowed our very small crew of 4 or 5 people in at the time. No deliveries were allowed to come in or out of the building without, they just weren't allowed in and out of the building. So we met them at the loading dock and had very strict protocols in place right away. We had masks and hand sanitizer and the whole thing. So we're very lucky from that perspective, and we're able to, learn as we went as far as doing small, individually packed caterings, the frozen soup program, food for the Ottawa mission. So we didn't have to close the kitchen and then learn how to reopen it. We just were able to modify and shift as we needed to. Because of our partnership with the Ottawa mission, we were able to very quickly help support them. They were able to send us some product and some supplies, so it wasn't a burden on our business, and we were able to supply the staffing and the packaging to help produce that when they needed it the most. And we produced about 1,400 meals a week to complement their meals, and we started our soup program right away. We realized very quickly that there was a need in the community to get together and all work together, not only to support local, but also just to support all the people that were suddenly in a position of, being locked down and not being able to get out. So by starting that soup program, our community, our clients got online and started making donations for the soups, and we were able to produce the soups and get them back out to people that needed it. We're right now currently making 150 liters of soup per week, but we've made, I would say, 5,000 or 6,000, easily since the pandemic. Probably more. I'd have to do the math, but lots. I think everybody in the city has to be very aware of how blessed we were to have great weather this summer and people were able to get out and about, and that's going to shift. So we do have to be much more aware of who our most vulnerable is, and I really think we have to work together as groups. There are so many organizations in the city that are doing something and contributing and working together, and I think it doesn't matter who, but see what you can do to just step up and help them, whatever it is, whether it's driving or delivering food, or someone has extra zucchini in their garden, or if they can afford to donate some money to any of these organizations. I just think we all have to work together. We're smarter and wiser than we were the first time.
Opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
On Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
Ottawa City Councillor Allan Hubley chairs the Transit Commission. He joins me this morning on City News. Good morning, Councillor.
Good morning, Rob. Thank you for inviting me.
If memory serves, you're kind of a late convert to this idea of having electric buses rolling all around the city of Ottawa. Why are you a believer now?
Well, I'm a believer in the deal that we've got here. I think we've got probably the best deal that we can get to bring them in. I'm still waiting to see. As you know, we're going to launch 2 as part of a pilot. I still want to see the results of the pilot and make sure that we can use them across all our routes. But certainly there's a place within the system for some electric buses, for sure. Like even if they just go around the downtown core.
Well, I mean, up for debate is not some electric buses, it's 450 buses, right?
It could result in up to 450 buses added to the fleet by 2027, you're correct.
Okay.
The initial move will be for 74 40-foot buses to be part of next year's capital budget.
Okay, so I want to get into the technology, but let's get into the deal. Since you're a big fan of the deal, tell me about the deal and what has you excited about the deal?
Well, in my role as chair of the Transit Commission and as our city council, our role is to look after the municipal taxpayer in this. Now, let's say up front, because both of you and I have had this discussion many a time, there's one taxpayer.
Sure.
But in my role at the city council, my primary person is the Ottawa taxpayer I have to look after. And what this deal does is, because we'll be the first to move into electric buses in a big way like this, we have the costs, any capital costs over and above the cost to replace a bus with a diesel bus is going to be covered through this arrangement. So therefore, there's no capital dollars at risk for the municipal tax dollar.
Yeah, I keep hearing this, but it's a loan.
Well, a loan that's paid back with the savings. So we have to achieve those savings to pay it back.
Well,
otherwise, it's
a loan that's paid back with the savings. Okay.
Yes.
We shall see, I suppose. Isn't that the big question mark? But look, I want to. And gosh, when I had the mayor on last week, it's like trying to pull teeth out of you people down at City Hall just to get you to admit that this is not the infrastructure bank or the government of Canada or Catherine McKenna coming to City Hall and saying, here's $400 million, free money. You're borrowing the money, right?
Correct.
It's a loan, right?
Only to be paid back if we achieve the savings, Rob.
What do you mean only to be paid?
Big difference in risk here for the taxpayer, for the municipal taxpayer.
Okay, so how do you anticipate achieving savings then?
Well, that'll all be outlined at the Transit Commission, what the plan includes, like how it'll be measured, how we're expect to achieve the savings. Clearly, the difference between the cost of diesel and electric, those kinds of ways, the wear and tear on the bus and things like that. But it's all outlined in the deal. The agreement includes how we will measure those savings and how we're expected to achieve those savings.
Okay, so what are some possible risks to achieving those savings?
Well, for example, if all of a sudden the cost of diesel drops way down and it gets cheaper than electricity, then, there's a risk.
Right, I would say that's one of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The maintenance, right?
Maintenance, if it's higher than anticipated, we want to try this pilot. Like even Calgary in the heart of Alberta is doing pilots with electric buses. So it is.
Sure. And look, I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to electric buses. Like you were just kind of at what cost, right?
Exactly.
Everybody's worried about the cost and whether. And look, we've just had this not so great experience with novel technology in Ottawa that didn't work so well in an Ottawa climate. So we want to make sure we have the right vehicle, right?
That's all the reasons why we're running this pilot this year to see how that works. It'll be running through the winter. We'll see how they work. It's different than the technology that Ottawa used when we had the hybrid buses. We know that didn't work in our situation, but all the signs are indicating that the new technology with electric buses should work here.
Yeah.
There's things I want to watch, like, for example, in the summer when it's real hot and humid, the air conditioning in the buses is going to be a huge draw on the batteries. Well, how's that going to affect getting for that bus to complete its route? The reverse in the winter. We have the extreme colds in the winter, so if the heaters are running on overtime, will that affect the performance of the bus? Those are the things that we need to look at and see. And this is a way of doing it and minimizing our risks. Like, we are not paying any more than what was in our long-term financial plan that was approved by the Commission and Council. So the 74 buses, for example, next year, that money is already earmarked in the budget to replace those. So we're not saying, give us more money. We're doing it through this agreement.
Yeah, I understand this, but you keep saying, well, pilot program. Right. Shouldn't we have run a pilot program, a really intense investigative pilot program before you agreed to buy 74 buses?
Yeah, look,
and
Rob,
so you can figure out all this. Don't you want to figure out and find out the answers to all of these questions before you agree to buy 74 of these buses in the first place?
And we will know a lot of that before we go too far down the road with this, for sure. Like, it's a purchase that will take place in 2022. So we're going to have the winter of 2021 under our belt in the pilot, and we'll see what the indicators are there. But let's keep in mind, too, there's other cities. For example, I think Toronto has between 40 and 50 of these buses on the road now for a couple of years. There's other cities across the country that we've been watching that have been doing pilots at that kind of a scale. This is just going to take it up to the next level when we start talking about the potential for up to 450 buses by 2027.
Okay. And again, right now, as I understand it, you correct me if I'm wrong, it's just the 40-foot buses that you're looking at.
That's it.
Right, the standard
and this
size
goes to the technology.
buses.
We haven't seen results from any other testing on the large extended buses or the double-deckers that have shown us that they can perform in the standards that we need them to perform here. So we're not purchasing those at this point. Now, 2 years down the road, if the double-decker e-bus has evolved and it's working every bit as good as what the diesel bus can do, it can handle our routes, it can handle our weather, then we'll start looking at buying those if they'll work. But, Rob, for the benefit of your listeners, the end game here, like the future of public transit, is probably hydrogen. But that technology is nowhere near ready yet. But it will be ready as governments and private sector invest in the development of hydrogen technology. That to me is the end game right there. That's where I'd love to see us be, but we can't yet.
Yeah. It just seems to me there are a lot of unknowns, Councillor. Even after this interview, there are still a lot of unknowns. You don't know if the maintenance, the cost of replacement batteries, the reliability because of weather conditions, having to eventually park buses outside, whether all of this is going to be able to offset and achieve the kind of savings that you're looking for, or whether it's even the right vehicle. It's a lot of money to be gambling with. And and I don't have to tell you that
Mr. mitigated a lot of it, Rob, but certainly there's still risk on the table, and I recognize that, and that's why I'm not saying let's convert the whole fleet right away, as some councillors are saying. I'm not there. I'm at the point where I'm looking forward to the results of the pilot. I would have liked to have seen us piloting some other technologies, for example, the liquid natural gas. I would have liked to have seen a pilot in that, because that I think performs better on the longer routes. So, that's one. But let's face it, the federal government is not offering any help for the liquid natural gas pilots. What they're offering us assistance on is an electric bus. And therefore, that decision was made for us.
Okay. So it's up for discussion tomorrow, is that right?
It's up for discussion at the Transit Commission. We will have a full report with all the details. I expect it's going to take a little while to get through this report. Yep. And then once the Transit Commission accepts the report, then it goes to Council on, I believe, June 23rd.
Yep. The following week. Yep. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay. Stay well. Good to hear from you. Bye-bye. Kanata Area Councillor and Transit Chair Allan Hubley. The poor professor from the glebe, Ian Lee, Carleton University, after the news on City News.
News in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, June 15th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 17 degrees. Here's what's making news this hour. Almost 1/4 of those pregnant during this pandemic experienced some sort of partner abuse, either physical, sexual, or mental. It's according to stats compiled by the Ottawa Hospital. The study also found those who fall under the average income level in Ottawa were 3 times more likely to suffer abuse. Students and staff at Algonquin will have a special vaccination clinic all next week. Any person who goes to or works at Algonquin and is registered with Campus Health Service and are 18 years of age or older can get their shot at that special campus clinic next week. A growing movement to cancel Canada Day activities out of respect for Indigenous healing. One town in the Waterloo region and Victoria, BC have already said they're doing this. So far, in light of the discovery of 215 children's remains at a former residential school in Kamloops. Now, Premier Ford today is making an announcement on residential school burial sites. He has scheduled that for 11 o'clock this morning. City News Time, 9:32. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's the opinionated Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
He's here every Tuesday morning with wit and wisdom. He's the poor professor from the Glebe, from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. Welcoming back Professor Ian Lee. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
It's great to hear from you. We have unemployment nationally north of 8%, but yet the news media is filled with stories about labor shortages, and StatsCan says that there are more than 632,000 job vacancies.
That's right.
In Canada. What do you think is going on here?
Well, let's step back for a moment. It was only, 2 months ago in April, mid-April, I think, that Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland stood up on television, delivered her budget, and she insisted that we were in a COVID recession. And there is wide agreement across the Western world, including the people at Finance Canada. A recession has been defined. Anyone can Google this out there in Radio Land. A recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. GDP going down, 2 consecutive quarters. That's 6 months. A quarter is 3 months, so 2 quarters is 6 months. Then you can look in the tables in the finance document and find that we did not decline 6 consecutive months in a row. Every time they locked down the economy, the GDP went down, for sure. Then the lockdown ended, GDP skyrocketed. In fact, as she was saying that in the very same speech, only 2 paragraphs, I think it was, before, she was bragging about the fact that in the preceding quarter, the economy grew, not shrunk, grew at 6%. That's Chinese growth rate levels. So the government is either deeply confused or they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth. Yes, we have no bananas. Yes, we're not in a recession. Yes, we are in a recession, but we're growing at 6%. And where I'm going with that is that these shortages are a reflection of the underlying issue. The government is in denial. They continue to roll out these very, very generous social income support, claiming that we're in a recession, claiming that large numbers of people are flat in their back financially because they've lost their job. And then you look at the employment stats, employment stats, 8%, as you pointed out, is unemployed. That means 92% of Canadians are working. 92. 8% are unemployed. And so that leads me to my third point. Maybe, Mr. Trudeau, the quote there today in the paper that he said, we're going to carry this on, and so this income support as long as it is necessary. Maybe we should just start discussing that maybe the income support is exacerbating unemployment. And I know progressives get all very angry and say, oh, you're accusing the people of being, lazy. I'm not at all. If I was 18, 19, 20, and I was working at a restaurant making $800 a month, and the government was going to give me $2,000 a month, no strings attached, and unlike the EI rules, you don't have to be searching. Well, I would take it too. I would take the $2,000 a month. Okay? So my point being, we should be adopting, if someone says, you can't be draconian and harsh. No. Why don't we adopt radical thought?
Okay.
Why don't we adopt the rules in the Employment Insurance Act that have governed this country since 1945? A, you have to be working, searching for a job. That's the first rule. I'm very big picture. There's two rules in the EI. There's lots of rules, but let's just focus on the two big ones. Number one, you have to be actively looking for a job. Number two, you get about 70% roughly of the income loss. We are paying 150 to 200%. Well, of course people aren't going to work if you say, gee whiz, go to work, you get 700 or 800, and you stay home, we'll give you 2,000. So maybe Mr. Trudeau and his policies are exacerbating and causing the alleged recession that is not a recession to be extended because the income support policies are too generous. And for those who say that's not right, that's not fair, is anyone saying that the Employment Insurance Act of the last 70 years was socially unjust? We are very proud of the Unemployment Insurance Act. I once upon a time it was called unemployment insurance, then we called it employment, and so I'm so confused I'll call it both. Okay, it's the act that Mackenzie King introduced, turned down by the Supreme Court as an infringement.
Why don't you show us your true age? You just call it the dole, okay? Just call it.
No. I'm not trying to put people down. People lose their jobs legitimately. What I'm trying to say is I'm actually very strongly supportive of the Unemployment Insurance Act or the Employment Insurance Act, whatever we call it now. I strongly believe in the principles of that act.
Well, yeah, it's an insurance policy. I mean, Canadian workers are paying premiums to help fund the thing, for crying out loud.
Right,
and if anything, we pay too much in premiums for it because they keep building up massive surpluses in the account. So.
But I'm not even referring to the payouts under EI under traditional EI. I'm talking about the CERB it's post-CERB or whatever. We've got this alphabet soup. I'm saying we should return to the standard policies that we've had for 70, 80 years since 1945 that says you lose your job, you go to unemployment insurance. And then there's some rules that apply.
Yeah.
And we pay you, I think it's 70%. Some told me it's 70% of your income loss.
If you can qualify.
And you have to be looking for a job. Yeah. Right now, we have in the States, the same problem as in the States, by the way. This is the most recent figures. I got this from TD Economics this morning. There are as many people, out of work in the States as there are job openings that cannot be filled. Mm-hmm. In other words, you've got this large number of people who are unemployed, they're at home, they're not working, and you got these job openings where businesses are begging for jobs. And we're going to have to confront this, that if we want to have a functioning society, we need all of these jobs filled. Some people have to be in the classroom teaching, some people have to be in restaurants, some people have to be in Loblaws, because we're all interdependent. We're all in it together, as they keep telling us. Well, we can't have a system where we say, look, there's a whole bunch of jobs, because we kind of sneer at them or we look down on them. Maybe Mr. Trudeau does. So we say, we don't think that they're worthy of people working in them. So we're going to deliberately socially engineer a support system that is double what they're making. And it's very disruptive of the labor markets. If this continues, what they're doing is essentially rewriting minimum wage. And if that's what they want to do, then have the courage, have the backbone to have an announcement and say, look, we think $15 an hour is too low. We want $25 or $30 an hour, which comes out to whatever the minimum CERB is, or whatever post-CERB is now called. In other words, do it through the front door and then let the cards fall as they may. And if it causes hundreds of thousands of small businesses to fail across the country, then they can face the wrath of those hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs that have been annihilated by government policy.
I just find it curious. I have the two reports in front of me. I have the labor force survey, which measures unemployment in the workforce, and then I have job vacancies, and they're both from StatsCan. Mm-hmm. And according to StatsCan, there are 1.6 million Canadians unemployed right now.
Right.
On a labor force of about 20 million.
That's
okay?
Right. That's correct.
But then you go and job vacancies. There are 632,700 job vacancies in the country.
That's right. It's a serious problem in our country.
I mean, we have, I'm just looking here, and it breaks it down by sector. For example, right now, there's a report actually in the newspaper about this. Restaurants are reopening, but they're having a hard time getting wait staff and kitchen staff and the whole thing because, I guess maybe it's better to stay home and collect $2,000. We have 70,000 job vacancies in that sector, accommodation and food services.
That's right. This is what I'm getting at. They distorted the labor markets.
Right.
The unemployment insurance system is a honorable and valued and strongly supported policy by Canadians. Public opinion polls show this. It is I won't go back in the history, but it was invented by Mackenzie King, and it's been there ever since. And Canadians, large numbers of us support it. And the idea, you lose your job, you can go get support, and you get roughly 2/3, 70%, roughly 2/3, and you have to be looking for a job, and you have to take a job that is reasonable, meaning that it's within your range of skill set. And you can't just sit there and say, no, I don't like that job, I don't feel like it. And we've long believed that. Well, what they've done is, through stealth, they never announced this, but they basically de facto amended the rules of unemployment insurance. How so? They're paying way more than 70% of the job loss. They're paying sometimes double the job loss, $2,000 on the CERB instead of $1,000 working at the restaurant. And secondly, there's no requirement to be accepting a job if one comes along. And that is literally a radical re-engineering of the Unemployment Insurance Act, or the Employment Insurance Act. And we haven't even had a debate or a discussion on this in Canada. And then the government prances around saying, there's all these unemployed people. Well, maybe the government is causing the unemployment to be much larger than it is. The economy is trying to get back on its feet. The economy is doing gangbusters, except that they're running into a wall of shortage of workers.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Exacerbated or constituted by this policy that violates the CERB income support policy, that is overturned, if we don't like the word violated, overturned the core principles of the Employment Insurance Act that has been on the books for 70-80 years, that is strongly supported by Canadians.
Okay. Have you been told what your teaching experience will look like in the fall?
As you can imagine, this is very controversial.
Okay.
And I don't mean Carleton, I mean all the universities in Canada.
Yeah.
It's my understanding, and I'm not a decision maker, I'm not a dean, associate dean, assistant dean, a decision maker, so I'm not giving you any secrets or scoops, but I mean, I'm there as an employee, and I do get communications like everybody else. And it's my understanding that there are faculty that are returning to the classroom in the fall. It's my understanding that they've gone to the 19 or 22 Canadian Ontario universities, went en masse together, jointly, collectively, to some big fancy law firm in Toronto to get a very extensive ruling or a briefing note that gave them their considered opinion of the law on a whole range of issues, such as can you require vaccination, can you acquire evidence of vaccination, what are the impact on privacy, charter rights, etc. So acknowledging that there are significant issues there. around that. I'm not denying that there's a charter and that there's a Privacy Act, etc. Having said that, my position, now I'm speaking me, not the university. My position is I have, since I was 10 years old in Ontario, been required, or my parents were required, to provide evidence. In fact, I got the vaccinations in those days at the school. They administered them at the school. Chickenpox, mumps, German measles, the whole bit.
Yeah, me too.
So I find it very difficult when people say, "Oh, there's privacy. You can't do that." Then what the hell do you think we've been doing for the last 50, 60, 70 years since the 60s, mandating vaccinations? Then some people have actually said to me, "Oh, but they were children." So the Charter of Rights does not say it doesn't apply to children. Either it's illegal to mandate vaccinations or it's not. And there's a lawyer, a very distinguished employment lawyer, who writes in he's in Toronto, and he writes a weekly column in the Financial Post. And he surveyed all the case law and all the statutes, and he said he believes that employers have the right to mandate that. Now, in my instance, my argument to the universities, so I'm not picking on Carleton, has been, I'm not saying you mandate it to the student. What you do is you say, look, students, you have a choice. And the universities don't agree with me on this, by the way. I said, you have a choice. Tell us you've been vaccinated, give us evidence, and you can come back on campus and go into the classroom, because there will be classes in bricks and mortar classrooms. However, simultaneously, we're going to continue offering online classes, Zoom only, online only. So if you aren't vaccinated, or you don't want to provide evidence of vaccination, no problem. We're not denying you an education. We put you over in the online class, which means you can't come onto campus and you can't take classes in the classroom. Because the idea, my argument is very clear. I think it would be irresponsible of any university to put hundreds, thousands of students in the classroom when you have no idea whatsoever if anybody in that room has COVID. Maybe one of them is coughing all over everybody, and they've got a full-blown case of COVID. If you don't test and you don't ask if they've been vaccinated, how on earth do you know? In other words, you're creating unnecessary risk. It's the very same argument for vaccinating children. And so I've argued, and look, the government has already announced that they're going to come up with vaccine passports and require double vaccination to come into Canada. So if the government of Canada can do it, and the American universities are doing it, okay, they're in a different legal system for sure, and the Europeans are doing it, and we've been doing it in the public schools since the 1960s, I think the universities can figure out a way to say, look, we want you to show us evidence you've been vaccinated. If you haven't, go into the online class, please. So we're not denying you an education. We're just saying you can't go into the bricks and mortar classroom. You got to go into the Zoom classroom. And I think that's a very fair compromise. But the universities, the 22 or 23, have not yet arrived at that position. I think they're still actually trying to decide what they're going to do. But to me, until you confront who is in the classroom, is there somebody in the room that has COVID? Well, if you don't test and you don't ask for evidence of vaccination, how do you know? The answer is you don't. That's why testing is so critical. I said that a year ago in talking to you. If you test, then you find out who has it.
Yeah. Okay.
You lock everybody down because you don't know who has it.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a substitute for testing.
Okay. Well, we have to stop here. We're a bit over time, and when we come back, I want your take on the future of the Canadian oil industry, pipeline politics, oil and gas. When we come back with the professor, Professor Ian Lee, Sprott School of Business, Carleton. This is City News.
This affected us big time because when, you know how we are seasoned. We have clothes for the spring, clothes for the winter. That time, lots of clothes didn't arrive on time from Europe or from here because some factory shut down. So, and this put us in an odd position. We received not all the merchandise, part of the merchandise. And people, and for us, we have to be careful, you know, especially with the virus going on. It did affect the business, of course, like everybody else. We're not immune, and since the government helped, you know, this did a little bit for us too, but still affected all the sectors, especially clothing. You know, you can see big corporation affected bad because nobody was thought it's going to be like this. Earthquake might happen. We joke about it before. Things might happen, but this was like a third war, but with a virus. So how to survive? That's the question, and we're doing our best to work with the mall, especially rent in a mall is very high. The government, they have certain, let's say, condition, like how many people will be in the mall or in the stores, etc. Yeah, it's a big factor, but of course, if my store has a back doors or just will be better, it will be much better. At least we can have curbside much easy because we have to shut down completely, and this left a mark on us, on everybody too. People always ask me, go online. Certain things you can't go online, let's say t-shirt, certain product people don't know how to fit. But when it comes to clothing, like it's different completely. Let's say I have a customer comes, you can give him 44, but certain suit he might take 42, certain suit he might take 46. So, and how could, suit is not gonna fit the same. And I see people come back and they show me what they got online and not the same fabric. Mostly young people, but if you really want to shop, you have to go to the store because everything will be around you. You want to be sure the color look good, the fit will look good, especially when you spend, doesn't matter how much money, 300 or 2,000, You have to try, you have to see what's going on. Please don't be shy, contact us. It will be a pleasure for me to take a suit or coat or anything. Like sometimes people have a funeral, they have things, they have a wedding, they don't want to come to the mall. If I get all the information, I will go and meet them at their home or their business offices. I'm gonna start doing that, and this will help the business and help the people. Like they're afraid to come to the mall for time being, or they're too busy at work. They cannot go anywhere at certain times, so I'm glad to do that.
Strong opinions.
Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
We're back with Professor Ian Lee, Sprott School of Business, Carleton University. A win for Canada on pipelines, Professor. My goodness, Line 3, Canada wins. It's a miracle.
I don't think it's a miracle so long as the United States remains a rule of law country and Canada remains a rule of law country. That is to say, in that instance, the company had committed, they had gone through every hoop, met every regulatory requirement. It had been vetted endless times, and so the absurdity is in this instance. So everybody understands. The environmental groups are saying the pipeline is too dangerous. What Enbridge is doing is replacing a 70-year-old pipeline, kilometer by kilometer, in the States mile by mile, with brand new piping, with the very latest cutting-edge pipe that has sensors. They're much safer than the old piping. So they're replacing old obsolete piping where there is a risk of some of the pipe failing, and they're replacing it with brand new state-of-the-art pipe. So the environmentalists went to court saying, we want to block the replacement of the old obsolete pipe with the brand new state-of-the-art pipe. Got that? And it just shows the absurdity of their position. But let me just go bigger picture just for one quick moment.
Yeah.
PHMSA, which is the regulator in the States under the DOT, and this is from their website, they have over 2 million miles of natural gas distribution mains, and then another 300,000 miles of gas transmission pipelines, and on, okay? Canada, by the way, has about 750,000 kilometers of pipelines. But the bigger picture is the U.S., about 80% of all energy is oil and gas, 80. In Canada, it's about 75, I think it is. My point that I want to make that's very important for everybody, electricity, the totality of electricity in Canada is about 17% of our total energy. In the States, it's a little less than that. To shut down all the oil and gas, which is the goal of the environmental groups, they say, great, let's just go electric. But the electrical grid in Canada and the States is designed for the current level of electricity demand, which is, as I said, about 17% of the total energy needed and used and consumed. Our grid is simply not capable of ramping up, and the Canadian Electricity Association, which is all of the electricity companies called Hydro-Quebec, Ontario Hydro, have said, we're not even remotely close to be able to substitute and displace all the oil and gas with electricity. And this is not something for those who say, well, then this is rebuild the grid. You've got to rewire every mile, every kilometer of wire, which means every street in Canada, every city, village, town, all the wires running from...
Yeah, I understand that. I think... to me, the more immediate concern is we have a very powerful movement in this country, and heck, even a government in Ottawa that wants to look the biggest gift horse in the country, like right in the mouth. Just this week, StatsCan released a 30-year look at Canada's oil exports, and has said that the value of crude exports has increased 15-fold since 1990. Back in 1990, the number one export from this country was autos, passenger cars, light trucks. It was 14% of total exports. And then in 2008, it was surpassed by oil, and it fluctuates because of the volatility of the oil price, but now the oil price is back to $72 a barrel. Right. But right now, it's about 14% of all exports. It's Canada's most valuable export. Okay, so you want to shut down the oil industry. Okay, what else can we sell all over the world that's going to bring Canada $85 billion a year? I ask you.
We're not. Okay. But let me... why I don't disagree with what you said, but I do in a sense. The environmentalists, and I'm certainly not, I'm just going to put on their hat for a moment. They're going to say, that's a utilitarian argument, but you're destroying the planet to do it. That's what they're going to say. And they do say that, by the way. I have a different response. To shut down oil and gas in Canada, anyone who thinks that we're going to rebuild the grid in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years is dreaming. We need hundreds of thousands of people to get up on those hydro boom trucks, one hydro pole at a time. And there's 8,900 kilometers. It's going to take 50 years. If we shut down the oil and gas now, we are literally going to have people freezing in the dark in January, because there is not enough grid capacity to transform everybody to heat with electric heat and charge their cars. Simply impossible. It's not an ideological statement I'm making. What I'm saying is they are putting millions and millions of people at risk, because in the winter, heating your home is not a luxury. It's not like going to Cuba for a holiday. You have to heat your house at minus 25 C in January. And they are trying to shut down the pipeline grid, the oil and gas grid, and say, well, just go use your electricity. But the grid is not capable of ramping up to displace and ship another 80% of energy demanded equivalent. Electricity is only 17% of the total energy used. To get rid of all the oil and gas is a gargantuan task, and we can't do it in the short run. So what they're saying between the lines is, well, if you people go, millions of you go freeze in the dark, that's just tough luck for you. Tough noogers for you. This is morally irresponsible.
Okay.
Ms. Carney, are you listening?
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Informative and entertaining, all in one academic package. That's you, Professor E. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Professor Lee from Carleton University is here every Tuesday. Talkback hours every day during the Rob Snow Show. It's next on the Second Dose Scramble. Any luck booking a second dose? What was that like? 750-1310 on City News.
for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, June 15th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 17 degrees, and here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. A new survey from the Ottawa Hospital is showing nearly 1 in 4 people who gave birth at the hospital between March and June of 2020 experienced abusive behavior from their partner, either before, during, or after pregnancy. Here's City News reporter Alex Gouge.
According to the survey, some of the behavior highlighted from respondents include controlling one's whereabouts and limiting contact with friends or family. Dr. Catherine Muldoon is the study lead and senior research associate at the Ottawa Hospital. She tells me the chance of intimate partner violence is 3 times higher for those under the median household income.
And I think the reason for that is just like the relationship between socioeconomic status and violence is very well established, and that this just gets exemplified during COVID.
The doctor adds those who gave birth at the Ottawa Hospital can reach out to them if they are in need of help or can contact the Monarch Clinic and Ottawa Victim Services. Alex Gouge, City News.
City News time at 10:02, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
For Ottawa, the Valley, and Smiths Falls today, we'll get into some clearing after some morning showers, a gusty northwest wind, and high today 23 degrees. Tonight, clear 10, and tomorrow, sunshine 22. For today, the high 23.
And right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, it's 17 degrees. Just getting the new numbers of COVID-19 cases in Ontario today, under 300. 296 cases today. Now, this comes from just over 17,000 completed tests. But 11 of these new cases are in Ottawa. There are no new cases in either Eastern Ontario's health unit or Renfrew, and just 1 new case in Leeds, Grenville, Lanark. The province, though, is also reporting 13 more deaths. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the world is at a unique moment in history and that countries have to stand united, getting everyone vaccinated against COVID-19 as soon as possible. Trudeau held a summit with European leaders today in Belgium discussing the issue of waiving vaccine patents. Some argue that would make it easier for developing countries to make their own COVID-19 vaccines. The town of Arnprior will be getting a Pride crosswalk, but the motion for a trans flag crosswalk was voted down. The general consensus was that the Pride flag is more inclusive to everyone, but one county councillor used an unflattering analogy.
Hypothetically, if there's some other, I have no idea, a mutant of some sort from alien comes to town and they are different because they're from out of this world, then we're going to have to make a new crosswalk with that symbol or whatever's on it. The rainbow covers everybody.
Dan Lynch even noted he would likely get into some trouble for making the comments. A staff report suggested the crosswalk would need repainting annually. Vacancy tax rebate could soon be a thing of the past for residents of Smiths Falls. Yesterday, Council debated the elimination of the vacancy tax rebate. It provides property tax relief to owners of a vacant commercial or industrial property. Treasurer Janet Kozil noted that there have been a declining number of applications and rebates since a revised program back in 2018.
In 2018, there were 21 applications, processed rebates of about 56,000, whereas in 2021, there were only 3 applications based, which were partial. That's why they were so low, the total rebates only being approximately 2,000. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation that this vacancy tax rebate be discontinued in 2022, which will be for the 2021 taxation year.
Now, a vacant unit rebate program provincially mandated in 1998 but made optional in 2016. A straw vote at Monday's Committee of the Whole demonstrated a 5-2 support for removing that program. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
The 2-dose scramble. What's been your experience trying to get a second dose? An appointment for a second dose? I'd love to hear it. Good, bad, or ugly. 750-1310, 750-1310, 613-750-1310, Talk Back Hour. How would you describe it? I'm curious to find out your experiences. dealing with what I call the second dose scramble. Has it, look, I mean, if it's been easy, good for you. It's not what I'm hearing, but if it's been easy, good for you. Has it been relatively easy? Has it been frustrating? Has it been downright impossible? Let me know. Sounds like the Vaccine Hunger Games all over again. Vaccine Hunger Games, the sequel. All it's missing is Donald Sutherland in the supporting role. This is in the Canadian Press this morning. Frustration in Ontario over lack of spots for second COVID-19 shots as Delta takes hold. Is that your experience? Frustration? Quoting here from the Canadian Press story, quote, residents in several of Ontario's COVID-19 hotspots expressed frustration Monday at their inability to book vaccinations close to home. Yeah, it's not just waiting or short supplies. It's the idea of, well, I live in Ottawa. I don't want to drive to Arnprior. Residents in several of Ontario's COVID-19 hotspots expressed frustration Monday at their inability to book vaccinations close to home amid a crush of demand after the province accelerated second doses in areas where the Delta variant is spreading. It goes on. Based on scientific evidence that people with one vaccine dose are less protected against the variant, the province has said individuals in 7 regions who got first doses on or before May 9th could book a second shot starting Monday. However, spots were quickly filled. One resident in Mississauga, I mean, this is so stupid. One resident in Mississauga said he would have to drive more than 100 kilometers to Simcoe to get a second dose initially scheduled for August after finding nothing nearby. Another Mississauga resident said he waited on the provincial website for 90 minutes to reserve his second dose, only to end up booking a spot in Toronto by telephone. Residents in other Delta hotspots also discovered they would have to travel for a shot. One person in Toronto complained of waiting 90 minutes only to find an available appointment more than an hour's drive away in Alliston. And the examples in the news story go on like that. Has this been your experience, or have you had no trouble at all? I am looking for eyewitness accounts of the second dose scramble. 750-1310, 750-1310. Jurgen, you're on City News. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob. I was going to try and call you yesterday, but I was actually waiting for my second shot, which I received yesterday afternoon at the Infinity Convention Center. If anybody knows where that is, that's the Hunt Club Uplands area right behind the Holiday Inn. Anyway, I booked that last Thursday, and I got on and I looked. I said, my God, look at all the spots available on Monday. And I booked it for Monday afternoon. Again, it went smooth, like the first one, in and out within 10 minutes. The whole thing was done.
So no problem at all for you?
No. Now, I have to say, it took me a few minutes because I went to different sites as to where could I get my shot. Now, probably as luck has it, and I did hear Watson talk about it, 10,000 Pfizer shots had just come in, and they were scheduled for that Infinity Center Convention Center. So it could have been all luck timing.
Right.
I got in on the afternoon, and they had vaccines available, and therefore the appointments, I guess, opened up. I guess the only thing I could say to all these people where they want to call 8 o'clock the first day it's available, forget it. You're not going to get your shot and get an appointment on the first day when they open up for availability, because there's thousands trying to get in. And I never got my shorts in a knot. I said, I'll wait 3-4 days, which I did. I waited on Thursday and then got my appointment booked that way.
Okay.
So I think people just have to be patient. There will be openings. It's all a matter of timing. You do have to hunt around. I went to 4 different places as to where I could get my shot. A lot of them, as soon as I got there, the appointments were gone. As soon as I clicked on, they were history. Anyway, this one happened to be even closer to my home. It was unbelievable. It was like 8 minutes from my house, so it worked out very well. So
my gosh,
there weren't any problems.
You have rainbows following you around.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, there were hundreds and hundreds of people there. I mean,
there were.
yesterday,
Okay.
They must have booked. It must have been a hell of a day there yesterday for getting second dose.
So what kind of vaccine did you get, if you don't mind me asking?
Pfizer, both Pfizer.
And how much time did you wait between doses, do you figure, when it was all said and done?
Exactly 2 months.
2 months, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And there you go, you're
was
done.
Perfect. I didn't want to wait 4 months, and I was happy. I said, I think 8 weeks is the most you want to go, and that was perfect.
Okay. You mind if I ask how old you are?
Yeah, I'll be 70,
70.
the next month.
All right.
Yeah.
Good for you, sir. Thank you.
Very
Okay.
good. Thanks,
Thank you,
Rob.
Jurgen. Bye-bye. So there you go. He's fully, once the immunity takes, it takes about 14 days, right? So 70 years old, he doesn't sound like he had any problems. Maybe it's all overblown by the media, sensationalized by the media. It's been known to happen. Susan in Brockville. Susan, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. More importantly, how are you?
I'm wonderful. I've got my second dose.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Excuse me.
How did it go?
Fine. Little sore in the arm.
Yeah.
But nothing major. Had it done a week ago.
A week ago, okay.
I believe it was June 6th. And my first shot of AstraZeneca was March 19th, so it went really well. I got the pharmacy in Kingston, in and out within 10 minutes maybe.
Both times?
Yes, both times.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
What kind of vaccine? What kind of vaccine?
AstraZeneca.
Both shots, AstraZeneca.
Yes.
And how much time between the 2 doses, ma'am?
Oh, well, it would be probably around the 2 months. I mean, the first one was done March 19th, and the second one was done about June 6th, I believe.
Okay. And the process?
It was well. Actually, I shouldn't say I did it. My husband did it.
Okay.
Online.
Online, okay.
Watching him, he seemed to go through it fairly quickly because he had his done at the same. Both of us are both done.
Yeah.
At the same pharmacy in the same time frame.
Boy, there must be some secret pharmacy in Kingston that just has its act together. I keep taking all these calls from people who went to Kingston and had no problem getting a shot. Yeah. And you went to the same pharmacy for both shots?
For both shots,
For both shots, yeah. Okay. All right. And you had no problems?
No problem at all.
So maybe it's just the media's making stuff up. All this frustration. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe we were just...
or you got lucky.
The timing was right. We were that pilot project initially when it started. So maybe that had something to do with it.
Yeah. And you're in your what, 70s, 60s, 70s? Or
63.
63, okay.
Yeah.
63, 2 doses done, and you're all happy.
Yep, my husband's done too. So we're both. We're
good
both
for you. Good for you, Susan.
Feel very fortunate.
Yes, you are. Very fortunate. Thank you, Susan. Okay. All right. Okay. I expected horror stories, but that's not the case so far. 750-1310. We'll be right back. Talk Back Hour, second dose scramble. Rob Snow Show on City News.
I wanted to give gifts to my volunteers, so I started making, I knew this is a skill I had, so I made a chocolate that had culture, a cultural based with a teaching, because culture here is not just a little part, it's the large part, it's the fundamental part of our organization. So then we started doing, just little programs, and we sell a few at a fair. And then we started getting contracts. People were starting to enjoy the chocolates, and started getting more and more contracts all across Canada. Then we decided to become a social enterprise, and we were able to create 2 jobs. And Val is one of our chocolatiers, very talented. We were able to help her with employment.
We started just with a little bit in the kitchen, doing a little bit of chocolate together, and next thing it's just kind of taken off. And it's great because I love to be creative, and we get to create a lot and make up stuff, and it's just I just love it. It's just great that we get to make money back for Wabano, and it's helping me out, and we're helping just everybody out, Wabano and everything.
We met a very socially conscious business owner, being around town, and we decided to partner because beans and chocolate, coffee and chocolate are sort of created the same way. And there's, and they're very, one origin bean, so it was a good pairing together, and it's been a fantastic partnership for both of us.
I was fortunate enough to get introduced to Crockatt, the head of Wabano Fine Chocolates, through a local networking group. And I was completely intrigued by the social enterprise that she was running, and then I looked at what we were doing, trying to support local business and supporting local communities, and it was a perfect match, and it's been fantastic ever since.
We make every batch by hand. We temper it by hand to get to the consistency it needs to be to make a good chocolate. And one of the best, also wonderful things we did, we've connected with Ed, with being around town, and our coffee bars have been amazing hit. So we're really excited about the connection with our coffee.
On the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
Second dose scramble or second dose success? Success story so far, 750-1310. Fred in Ottawa. Good morning, Fred. You're on City News.
Good morning, Rob. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good, sir. How are you?
Right now, I'm feeling the side effects of the second dose I had on Sunday.
Okay, yes. Okay. Well,
rebooking was not a problem. I had it done in 20 minutes on my phone on Friday.
Good for you. Yeah.
Had it, although the first one I had back April 19th, April 16th, 10 days after my 60th birthday. So it's just over 8 weeks. But I had to go to Castleman to get the second one.
Castleman, okay. Yep. How long a drive was that for you?
About half an hour.
Half an hour?
Yep.
Yeah. Where did you get it in Castleman? Like at a pharmacy or a community center?
No, it was at the J.R. Brisson Hockey Arena.
Right, okay. Like a community center kind of place, right? Yeah. Kind of weird, though, that you would have to leave Ottawa and go to Castleman to get it done, though.
Well,
right?
when I got on my phone, they didn't have anything available in Ottawa, so I just kept on flicking through and saw one up Castleman, and 69 times they had booked for that day.
Wow, okay.
Open. Yeah, so I think just like the other two callers before me, I just happened to get lucky. I was the right place at the right time.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. What kind of vaccine was it?
Moderna.
Moderna, okay. For both doses for you?
Both doses are Moderna.
And about 2 months apart?
Yep.
And you're 60?
I am 60.
You're rocking it. You're done.
I am.
Middle of June, that's it. You're done. Hopefully those side effects won't last too long.
Well, the first one, the only side effect I had a bit of fatigue and a sore arm.
Yeah.
This one is sore arm. I got a sore neck, a sore back. Major fatigue yesterday, although I did stress myself out because I'm a cabinet maker. I was delivering a couple of large cabinets to car dealerships, and I had to bring it upstairs. So I really physically exerted myself and just hit the wall. Like I could feel the energy being sucked right out of me, and I was done. I had to get my wife and my stepson to pick me up at the site and drive
you home.
Back, drive me home, drive the van back to the shop, and drove me home. And I crashed for 3 hours.
Okay. All right. Well, take it easy, Fred. I'm glad to hear that it worked out well for you.
I will.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, sir. So there you go. 3 in a row. 3 success stories. No problem. Now, David thinks it's all sensationalism by the media. He thinks the media there's no such thing as a second dose scramble. And maybe you're right, David. This is why you go right to the source. Right? Kris, Marionville. Kris.
Hello, top of the day to you.
Yes, sir. Same to you. How's it going on second doses?
I go for my second dose this Thursday at 6:20.
Okay. All right.
And it was a piece of cake. My first dose.
Holy cow!
I'm
telling you, Kris, there's like in the news today, it's news story after news story after news story. Mad scramble, frustration. People are pulling their hair out trying to get these.
My first, actually, Ottawa Public Health called me. I'm in a wheelchair.
Okay.
And I guess I'm on the LHIN's list, and so they called me for the first one, and it was a piece of cake. I went into Canterbury Community Center.
Okay.
Boom, boom, boom. Half an hour. I'm out, and I'm on my way home. And then yesterday I said, well, it was on Good Friday when I had my shot, and I hear, okay, if it's been before the 18th, you can start calling for your second one. So about, it was actually 12:15 yesterday. I called OPH, and your caller number 9, do you want them to call you back? I pressed 1, they called me back, and when do you want your appointment? I have one here for Thursday. Sign me up.
Sign me up, yeah.
That easy.
That easy. So what kind of vaccine did you get?
The Pfizer.
Pfizer, good for you. Okay.
Pfizer.
Yeah, and the second dose will be a Pfizer dose, I suspect. So between the two, how long do you figure you waited? 2 months?
Well, it was just a little over 2 months there.
Just a little over 2 months.
Yeah,
okay.
It was Remembrance Day, or not Remembrance Day, Good Friday when I got my shot, and then, so I guess about 2.5 months.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thank you, Kris. Yep, good news. More good news. I'm so surprised by this. I thought it was going to be one horror story after another, but there you go. Cheryl in the West End. Good morning, Cheryl. You're on City News.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, Cheryl. I'm pleasantly surprised that it's going well for some people.
Well, you're going to stay happy because I got my mother-in-law vaccinated this morning.
Okay.
I got my 93-year-old got her second vaccine maybe 3 weeks ago. My husband and I are scheduled for Friday, but we're going to Kingston. We didn't have a problem with the drive part. I mean, people are complaining that there's nowhere to go and nothing to do, and then they complain because they have to drive to get the vaccine. So there you go.
Yeah.
So nothing
If anything,
everybody's good.
Yeah, Cheryl. If anything, people are. I guess they're going to make it a day of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful drive.
Sure.
I've heard of people that in Kanata that won't accept one in Orleans. So.
Right. Well.
Yeah, and they got cars and they have the time. It's one thing if you don't have the transportation, that's a whole different
issue. Then it would be a whole other story, right? And if you're older,
you have to. I don't know. Anyway,
and if you're older,
yes,
it's easier, right? Than if you're, say, working family of 4, both parents trying to work, maybe even work at home, trying to take care of children. Who has time to spend all day trying to book appointments?
It didn't take me long either. I was like the gentleman that spoke before me. It was a call. You're on the so a certain number on the list. Do you want to call back? Yes, I'll take the call back.
Okay.
That's it. Done.
And you don't mind the drive to Kingston? Kingston's a nice thing.
No, and my mother-in-law, well, it was my husband that took her this morning. I mean, it was City Hall, which isn't the greatest parking and stuff. But again, if you want to get the vaccine, it's available if you want to get it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, glad to hear it. Okay. The second dose scramble. Sensationalized by the media. Sucked me in. Kris in Ottawa. Kris.
How are you today?
I'm okay, Kris. More importantly, how are you? How goes the battle to get a second dose into Kris's arm?
I'm literally driving back from getting it in Orleans about 20 minutes ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
I booked it yesterday.
And you booked it yesterday. You got it today.
I did.
Good for you.
I could go buy a scratch ticket or a lottery ticket.
Man, oh man. And how would you describe the process?
Well, it's...
what was that like yesterday? Did you kind of luck out into getting it kind of thing?
I believe I did. I did it through a pharmacy.
Okay.
And it just happened to pop up with a 9:30 slot in the morning, so I took it and had to wait a little bit. But, it was a pretty simple process. They were busy, but it was pretty simple. I went through the booking on the portal. It did give me a slot, which I've now released so someone else can have it. But it didn't seem to, there was a waiting time of, I think, 20 minutes while you went through the queue, but it's not a horror story for sure.
What kind of vaccine was it?
My first was AstraZeneca and the second was Pfizer.
Oh, so you mixed and matched.
I did.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? Just.
I'm I'm okay. I got an email almost immediately after the vaccine asking from CERN if I wanted to participate in the study.
Okay,
so
okay.
I'm going to say yes to that.
So you are literally a guinea pig now, Kris.
I guess so.
They're going to be following you. They may. You never know, Kris. You may get a follow-up call 10 years from now from somebody doing research on that, as somebody who mixed and matched a dose. But that's very interesting. And do you mind if I ask how old you are, Kris?
I'm 45.
45?
So my initial dose was part of the AstraZeneca if you're over the age of 40.
Yeah.
And that one was a walk-in to Shoppers Drug Mart that basically said that if you had a text booking or confirmation, they were having problems with their system, and if you came in and they had a slot, they would give it to you. And I got that one within 4 days of doing the bookings once that came over. So I will say I'm 2 days shy of 8 weeks, and I had to sign a consent form saying I understand that it's 2 days early.
Right. Okay.
For my second vaccine, but I'm pretty okay with that.
Okay. I would advise you, Kris, given how lucky you are. I mean, it's one thing 12% of the population is fully vaccinated. I'd love to know the percentage of the population that is 45 that is fully vaccinated.
I agree, but as they said, if you got a opportunity for a shot, take it.
Go get it. Yeah, sure. You know what you should do? It's the largest lottery draw in history is today in Canada.
I'm thinking it, yeah.
I think you should go buy a Lotto Max, my friend.
I will have to definitely do that.
Okay,
Anyways,
Kris. Thank you. Congratulations. I feel good for you, Kris. I really do. A little jealous, but I'm happy for you. I really am. Thank you for the call. Boy, oh boy, everybody's, it's looking up. That's good. The halftime Rob Snow show, second dose scramble, more like second dose celebration this morning. This is City News.
One for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, June 15th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 16 degrees. In Smith Falls, 17. And here's what's making news this hour. The province reporting an additional 296 cases of COVID-19 today. 11 of those cases are in Ottawa. One new case in Leeds, Grenville, Lanark. But both Renfrew and the Eastern Ontario Health Unit are reporting no new cases. The numbers come from just over 17,000 completed tests. There are also 13 more deaths in Ontario from COVID. Ottawa Hospital tracked pregnant people between March and June of last year and found almost 1/4 were victims of sexual, physical, or mental abuse in the time before, during, or after pregnancy. The hospital also found those under the median average income in Ottawa were 3 times more likely to be a victim of partner violence. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the world is at a unique moment in history and countries have to stand united getting everyone vaccinated against COVID-19. Trudeau held a summit with European leaders today in Belgium discussing the issue of waiving vaccine patents. Some argue that would make it easier for developing countries to make their own COVID vaccines. Trudeau flies back to Ottawa, scheduled to land in about an hour and a half at noon. City News Time, 10:31. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
Second dose scramble or second dose siesta. See how many of those we can come up with between now and the top of the hour, David. How is it going trying to get a second dose? Laura in BC, Bell's Corners.
Hi.
Hello, Laura. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Did you get a second dose appointment?
Yes, I do, but
Good.
my experience was not as positive as everyone else.
Okay. What happened to rain on your parade?
Well, I'm booked in Alexandria.
In Alexandria? Holy cow!
No kidding. Nothing in Ottawa area at
Do they
all.
do they have an airport there? You can maybe you can fly from the Ottawa airport to Alexandria.
No, and it's about an hour and 20-minute drive.
I know where it is. You may as well you'll be halfway there anyway. Just keep going, spend the night in Montreal or something.
I probably could, but nothing in Ottawa. West End, Kanata, and the Nepean, there was nothing at all. Cornwall and Alexandria were the only 2 options I had.
Wow. Okay.
So,
that's kind of incredible, right? That's kind of incredible. You know, here we are. We're the second largest city in the province, for crying out loud. And you have to go to the totally different health unit.
Exactly. Eastern Ontario
Health Unit. Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, they would bring up Kanata, they'd bring up the East End, and as soon as you clicked on the location, it would come up saying there's no bookings available. So there wasn't even a time slot to choose from.
Okay.
So, no, I'll keep trying, though. Hopefully, maybe another week, I can actually move a little closer to Ottawa.
Okay. So did you actually book an appointment in Alexandria?
I did, yeah.
You did?
Because
Okay.
I wanted to escalate. I was AstraZeneca first shot.
Yeah.
I hope to get in a little sooner. I'm due, my 12 weeks expires the 2nd of July.
Yes.
So I'm hoping I could move that up, but that was all that was available. Other options in Cornwall were August.
In August. Okay. Well, make sure if you do end up doing the drive, make sure you have a full tank of gas. Okay.
I will, for sure.
All right, Laura, thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. That's kind of nutty. Isn't that kind of nutty? Marina in Embrun. Marina.
Hey there, can you hear me?
I hear you just fine. You're on City News right now.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm great. That's really the only wrinkle that I've heard so far this morning when it comes to the second dose scramble or the second dose celebration or whatever people want to call it this morning. What's been your experience?
So I'm actually a pharmacist, which was the reason I wanted to call in, just because I've been listening and hearing all these people talk about, and I'm super obviously happy people are able to get their second doses. That's so important.
Yep.
But being on the other side of it, I've had to turn heaps and heaps and heaps of people away, and just so it hasn't been positive for everybody. And so I just wanted to share for anybody who might be listening that I think it's really, really important to be aware of what the criteria are for getting your second dose, depending on where you go. So the criteria for health units are different from the criteria that pharmacies have to follow.
Okay.
And I just I wanted to reach out right now, I'm not sure about health units. I can't speak on their behalf, of course.
Yep.
But at the pharmacy level, pharmacies are only allowed to give second doses as of right now. And of course, as we've learned, the Ontario government makes changes all of the time. So this might be different by the end of the phone call. But as of right now, pharmacies are only eligible to give second doses to individuals who are either 70 and older or who got their first dose before April 18th, either April 18th or earlier. And then there are also some other exceptions like high-risk healthcare workers, specific health conditions, and things like that. But generally speaking, if you want to get your second dose at a pharmacy, you need to make sure that you fall into that category. And then it's also worth keeping in mind, if you do go through a pharmacy, to maybe give them a call and see which one they get. Because at my store, we've been received. So we were part of the second phase rollout where we had AstraZeneca, and now we have Moderna. But I know that there are other pharmacies that they've only been receiving Pfizer exclusively. So, I mean, depending on whatever you got for your first dose, definitely have a check and make sure, these are all good to go before you show up.
But I think there's going to be some mixing and matching, right?
Yeah, there
because
is.
Of supply? Yeah. So when you say you've had to turn lots of people away, is it because of they don't meet that criteria, or is it because of supply constraints? It's more of a criteria thing?
It's a criteria.
It is. Okay. All right.
With the system that we're using at my pharmacy, people can book online, which has been really wonderful. But if we don't, it's a bit tricky. If we don't catch it before they come in, somebody could book an appointment who might be only, say, 60 and have gotten their first dose, say, on like April 26th or something like that. So they don't meet my age criteria, and they don't meet the before April 18th criteria. So we've had to turn those people away.
Okay.
And then you feel bad because just like your previous caller who was in Alexandria, like I'm in Embrun, just east of the
I drove
city.
all the way to Embrun, and you're turning me away.
Yeah, exactly. I've had heaps of people drive from all over to come in and get vaccines, which is wonderful. But I mean, you feel really rotten to turn somebody away. It's not
don't make the pharmacist feel bad. Okay, thank you, Marina.
Yeah, thank you so much
for that update. Yeah, I hope that's helpful to everybody. Listen to your friendly neighborhood pharmacist, okay? You have to meet the criteria. 10:39, Rob Snow Show Talkback Hour. Second dose satisfaction for the most part. I think so. This morning, a lot of happy people calling the Rob Snow Show. This is a rare occurrence, okay? May never be repeated. Daryl in Ottawa. Good morning, Daryl.
Good morning, Rob. How are you?
I'm okay, Daryl. How's it going trying to get a second dose?
Ridiculous.
Okay.
Ridiculous.
All right.
I've been trying every day.
You grouch. You're such a grouch, Daryl.
I know. I can't stand myself. Listen, every day for 4 to 6 hours a day, both online and on the phone, most of the time spent on hold and waiting, I have yet to be able to book my second dose Moderna.
Okay. And this has been like an all-day, everyday affair for you for days on end.
4 to 6 hours a day, because I'm a designated care provider for my daughter.
Okay.
Plus, I'm almost 70 with my own health issues.
Oh, my God.
So I've been trying to book it. I get on at 8 in the morning. I sit and wait for hours. I finally get through, enter my information, and it says no vaccines available. Same thing online. I call in, or on the phone, I call in. I sit on hold. When somebody finally gets on, they say, okay, where are you? I tell them, there's no appointments posted. Ottawa's the worst city in the province for booking vaccines, second dose vaccines.
Okay. You have very, very bad experience by the sounds of things.
Sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting that your experience is so different than most of the people who have called, though, Daryl. I wonder what the difference could be.
The difference is that I'm trying to stick to the city of Ottawa.
Right, okay. You're not looking outside the city then. Yeah.
That's right. Now, if I wanted
to... Is there a reason for that, Daryl? I don't want to pry, but is there a reason for that? Or?
Yeah, there is. Because, one, I have a daughter in the hospital. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
But I need to be in there every day to see her.
Okay.
And I can't...
You can't be driving all over Eastern Ontario trying to get a vaccine, you're saying. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Well, you have had one dose, right?
Yes, I got my first dose April 12th. It was Moderna.
Okay.
And now I need my second dose. My daughter's had both of hers. She had 2 Pfizer shots.
Oh, well, that's good.
In the hospital.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Daryl, good luck, eh?
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Have a good one,
Yeah,
bro.
you too. Bye-bye. Yep. 750-1310, 750-1310. Second dose scramble. Mad scramble for him by the sounds of things. One line available for the first time this morning. Veronica's in the Glebe. Good morning,
Hi.
Veronica. Hi, Veronica. How's it going in trying to get a second dose for you?
First and second dose, nothing but a celebration.
Nothing but a celebration. Oh, that's good.
No issue with the first dose, no issues with the second dose. I had my first on April 29 when they announced that they're opening for the 70-year-olds and plus. I went on first thing in the morning, there were 18,000 people. I hanged up 3 p.m. I booked up for this past Saturday, and I had my vaccination at Canterbury Center here in Ottawa.
Okay.
All nice and smooth, staff very polite.
Yes.
I was in and out in 22 minutes.
22 minutes.
Right.
Good for you. And what kind of vaccine was it? Do you mind?
Pfizer both times.
And you're feeling good about that, I guess, yeah?
Absolutely. I have no side effects or anything.
Yes.
And, perfect, but no issues with booking whatsoever.
Wow.
Neither first time nor the second time.
Good for you. So, all told, you waited, how long do you think you waited between doses? About 2 months or so?
April 29, so we're talking about 40 days.
40 days. Very biblical.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad it all worked out for you, Veronica.
And I had an urge to call. I am first-time caller. But
I appreciate that.
And I say I have to call because, yes, media is very negative.
Very negative, yes. I know. We're always doomy, gloomy in the media.
So thank you for listening.
Okay, Veronica, thank you.
Call.
I'm glad it worked out for you. Yes, we are a doomy, gloomy bunch. Miriam in Ottawa. Good morning, Miriam.
Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. I'm very encouraged by this hour of phone calls so far. It was not what I was expecting. I was expecting, to be quite frank, people telling me one after another it's a total gong show to try and get a vaccine in this province. But that's not people's experience, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I guess. First of all, I'd like to start by saying thank you. I was one of the ones, I was actually listening to your show when I heard about the pilot in Kingston. I'm over 60, so, I started to call and I got my AstraZeneca in Kingston. I drove down, I got an appointment, and I was all excited, although that defeats the purpose, right? Because I thought they're going to throw tomatoes in my face. I'm leaving Ottawa, coming to Kingston. If they're telling us lockdown, stay home.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, I'm blessed.
You had to sneak across the border. You snuck across the border.
It's not across the border, but it is going far away from home. At any rate, leave that to Ford. Yeah. And I came back, and in my paper, it said between 4 to 16 weeks. And then the regulations changed, and they go from now it's going to be 15 weeks. I do not have a second appointment, so they tell me to go and phone the portal, and I went in a loop between the Health Ontario and Ottawa, Ontario, all of them to tell me, no, Shoppers Drug Mart is going to call you, and they're going to get your second shot. So then last Sunday, a couple of Sundays ago, when this lot again of AstraZeneca was expiring, my girlfriend that I told her about this pilot went to Kingston. She got called. She got her second shot. And I didn't. And so I got worried. I phoned the pharmacy, and the pharmacy where I had my original shot, they said, no, we don't have the vaccine here, so you may have to phone again Ottawa, Ontario. So I go back to Ottawa Health, phoning, and they said, no, because you went to Kingston is going to call you, and then they're going to. So anyways, I went in a loop like that. And then they said, well, now we are extending the period of the AstraZeneca until July 1st. And I'm going like, oh my gosh, I'd like to have now the Pfizer or any other, because what is this? Is this like, they are just, let's put another label now, it doesn't expire. Yep. So I felt a little bit insecure. Fortunately, I got the call. I got my second shot last Wednesday. I'm happy about it, but what I'm not happy is with the communication and the insecurity. We're all feeling this stress about all of this, and we don't need to be confused. So at any rate, like I said, I'm really blessed that I'm doing that. My husband had his at City Hall, a Pfizer. He got his second date, and then a girlfriend called us and said, oh, Loblaws in Vanier has a Pfizer. And I said, okay. He got his second shot.
Oh.
And I went there as well, but they told me, oh, no, we can't give you the vaccine because you had AstraZeneca, this is Pfizer, and you were 2 days before you are allowed to have the shot. So at any rate, I think the distribution of this wasn't well thought. I think that, why do they have us traveling all of this distance? I've heard from other people. And yes, it's true, we've had the shot. But, I mean, why do we have to drive to Kingston to get this vaccine in the first place?
All right.
I would like to know that.
Gotcha. But I'm glad it's working out, though. Thank you. Miriam, thank you. We'll be right back with some more of your calls. It's a very busy hour. The Talkback Hour today. This is the Rob Snow Show, City News.
To opening a business especially in a pandemic, in that kind of situation, is very challenging. First, people don't know me. People don't know my product. To build a new clientele, to build a trust for them, to show them that I care about it. I do love my food. That was the biggest challenge. And of course, in all lockdown, where I had to face it regards my employee, girls, ladies, what they work for me. I didn't want to tell them, sorry, I'm closed, I'm not having a job for you. No, they have families, they have kids to feed. So this is very important because we are family orientated. And we decided to open. We, of course, essential business. So been very tough, very, very tough, as we didn't see people on the road. Market was completely quiet, but we knew that we have to wait, and we knew that we're gonna be fine. In this town, we built online shop, Vedel Online, and we did Uber Eats, which one is picking up and is very, very popular. We have a really good feedback. So this is the song from my heart. And and we try to expand. I'm thinking about opening another location. So I want to make Vedel famous. I want to make the Vedel place to be for all the families with kids. Try the traditional food, what their grandparents cooked in the countries when they're from, or even Canadian people. They're more than welcome to come and try our famous pierogis. I try to be passionate about my food, organic food made with love, with all homemade, organic. So you can find food from all over the Europe: Polish, German, Ukrainian, Romanian, French, Armenian, so all kind of different types of food. Homemade lunches, we focus on the homemade lunches, grandma style. I keep always saying, like in my Genia Babcia house, how she cooked, I wanted this love and this food over here because I believe that will bring all people around me. And all the organic cold cuts, lovely selection of sausages, cheeses, European cheeses, great selections of mustards, French cookies. All what you need from Europe you can find here at the Untitled Touch of Europe. If you think good way, that's it. You have to. I had the option to cry in the corner and say, oh, pandemic is coming. No, you need to stand up and fight for it and have your eyes open, think outside of the box and do it.
On the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
Second dose scramble, second dose success, second doses secured, supplied. Let's get right back to it. 750-1310, West End. Ann. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning.
Morning, Ann. How is your mission going at getting a second dose?
Well, I just want to ask you, do you have a GPS?
GPS?
I'm heading to Cornwall.
Oh, you're heading to Cornwall. Okay, all right. Okay.
My sister and brother-in-law are heading to Cornwall on Thursday, and my other sister and I are heading to Cornwall on Saturday.
It's a lovely town. I've heard great things. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to let you know that I think it was 3 days. I tried the first day, and I tried another day, and I tried the third day.
Right.
And I finally got in. I finally said, well, anywhere. So they said, well, there's an opening in Cornwall. So
opening in Cornwall. So you're driving to Cornwall. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
No, I don't have GPS, and I haven't driven to Cornwall in years.
Well, I haven't either, so.
I have actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I've actually driven to Maxville more than I've driven to Cornwall because I used to do a broadcast every year from the Maxville Highland Games. So,
yes, I know Maxville, but Cornwall, no, that's going to be new.
Okay.
But I just want to let you know that you make my day every day. You're the best.
Thank you so much.
And that if I don't get you in the morning, I listen to you at night.
Oh, you do? Okay.
So,
yeah. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. Now, this drive to Cornwall, I mean, how does that have you feeling about having to kind of jump through that hoop?
I just wanted to,
You just want to get it over with.
I want to get it over with because this variant, Delta variant, is scaring the hell out of everybody.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And you're much better protected if you have two doses than one dose, especially from this variant.
Like what's happening in the UK now, he's going to put on another lockdown over there because of the variant. So
they were just about to move into their final phase and basically reopen all of the UK, and that they've had to hit the emergency brake there.
Exactly.
For the next month, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, enjoy the drive. I'm sure it'll be a lovely drive.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you, Ann. Isn't that nice of her to say? In Almont, Judy.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Judy. How's it going?
Excellent, and I'll repeat what the previous caller said. Your show makes my day.
Oh, holy cow. That's so nice of you to say that, Judy.
Well,
thank you.
True.
Yeah,
I had no problem at all for either vaccine. Now, I live out in no man's land between Almont and Clayton. My first shot was on April 18th. I had to go to Ottawa to the Eva James Memorial Center in Kanata.
Okay.
And right away, when they gave you the paper after it was over, the second appointment was on there for August the 14th, I think. But then when the parameters opened up, I was able to book a second shot for the end of this month in Smith Falls. But I kept searching, and eventually, right in Almont at the little pharmacy inside the grocery store, there was one little appointment all by itself sitting there for Sunday just passed, and I had my second shot on Sunday.
I'll take that.
They were both Moderna. I was willing to drive anywhere. I'm willing and able to drive anywhere, anytime, didn't care.
Yeah.
But to get an actual appointment in Almont, like last Sunday, was fantastic.
Well, good for you. Clayton. Now, Clayton, you really live near Clayton? Is that really?
So here's the other thing. When I was making my first appointment, we don't have high-speed internet out here.
Yeah.
And I was still able to maneuver my way through,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in Clayton last summer, actually, to do, of all things, buy a canoe. That's where Jennifer and I bought that blasted canoe. I'll never forget that. I tried to get that canoe home. My gosh.
And it's hard to get in there these days because of the road.
What a drive that was. All right. Thank you, Judy. Okay. Yeah, whenever I think of Clayton, I just think of that, throwing that canoe onto the truck. Holy cow. All right, Carol in Barrhaven. Carol.
Hi.
Hi, Carol. How's it going trying to get a second dose?
Still good.
Good? Yeah?
No.
Oh, no good. No good. Okay, no good. All right.
I'm in Ottawa because I don't drive out of town.
Okay.
I've had no luck.
No luck. Okay.
For hours yesterday.
Yeah.
I did it online. I phoned the Ontario number. No appointments available. I tried again this morning around 9. No appointments available online. Tried calling the number again. Nothing available. I'm on the list of several pharmacies.
Right.
And 3 local ones I've actually gone in. They don't have the supply yet.
Okay. So you wait.
65, and I don't have my second shot, and my son, who's 43, will probably get his second before me.
Yeah, by the sounds of things, look, I'm really happy for everybody who's getting their second doses. My goodness, it was so frustrating there for the longest time, but it seems if you're willing to travel, it's a lot easier by the sounds of it.
It shouldn't be the case, though.
It shouldn't be the case. We're a city of 1 million people, right? So, yeah, okay, Carol, thank you. Good luck. Thanks. Good luck. You got time? Let's take. I want to really take this one here. Scott says he has a tip for the booking portal. Actually, I'm all open ears for that one. Scott, go ahead, sir.
Hey, Rob. How's it going?
Good. Yeah.
So I've had both shots.
You've had both shots? Yeah.
Yep.
Good for
you.
I
just recently had yesterday I had my second shot.
Okay.
But I remember when I was booking it, they wanted me to go to Castleman. July 4th, I went back on, got something even closer in Orleans. It automatically cancels the confirmation from the first shot on the portal. So you can keep going on and rebooking to get something closer or earlier.
Okay.
And the system automatically cancels the previous confirmation.
Good to know, Scott. Thank you, sir. Thank you for all of your calls. Generally speaking, a very uplifting hour. We don't usually say that a lot about the Talkback Hour, but that was certainly my experience today. And for those of you still frustrated by the second dose scramble, keep trying. We're back right after the 11 o'clock news on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, June 15th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, some light rain, 16 degrees, 17 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. The province is reporting an additional 296 cases of COVID-19 today. 11 of those cases are in Ottawa. There is one new case in Leeds, Grenville, Lanark. But both the Renfrew and Eastern Ontario health units are reporting no new cases. The numbers come from just over 17,000 completed tests, the positivity rate at 2.3%. The province also says 13 more people have died from COVID-19. City News time 11:01. Now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
For Ottawa, the Valley, and Smiths Falls today, we'll get into some clearing after some morning showers, a gusty northwest wind, and high today 23 degrees. Tonight clear 10, and tomorrow sunshine 22. For today, the high 23.
And now some scattered light rain in the area, 16 degrees in Ottawa, 17 degrees in Smiths Falls. Is there a growing call to scrap Canada Day celebrations this year? First, it was Victoria, BC, we told you last week, said they were going to do that as a sign of Indigenous healing. Now, a township in Waterloo region has decided to cancel Canada Day festivities this year. That is Wilmot Township. And right now, Premier Doug Ford is about to make an announcement on residential school burial sites in Ontario. A 68-year-old Ottawa man has been sentenced to 5.5 years in jail for several child porn-related charges. Tristan Alexandra Perrier was guilty of one of the largest seizures of child sexual exploitation material ever in our country. Perrier was found to have over 1 million child exploitation files when police charged him. He must submit a DNA sample. He will be on the sex offender registry, too, for the rest of his life. City News time, 11:03. A new study from Ottawa Hospital is showing more than 24% of those who gave birth during last year's spring lockdown encountered abusive behavior from their partner, either before, during, or after their pregnancy. Here's City News reporter Alex Gouge.
The study shows some of the behaviors respondents experience from their partners include limiting contact with family or friends or controlling one's whereabouts. Dr. Catherine Muldoon is the study lead and senior research associate at the Ottawa Hospital and explains the likelihood of intimate partner violence is 3 times higher for those who fall below the median household income. She explains those who gave birth at the hospital can head there if they need assistance and tells me other resources available in the capital.
There's also Ottawa Victim Services, which has a lot of different resources related to violence or abusive behaviors. And then there is the Monarch Clinic is one specifically related to postpartum health and wellness.
The doctor adds there were also few cases of physical and sexual assault identified in this study. Alex Gouge, City News.
City News time, 11:04. Ottawa's Pearlie and Rideau Veterans Health Centre has celebrated its largest philanthropic gift in history. The foundation has received $2 million from Commissionaires Ottawa. The donation gives a major boost to the Pearlie Rideau Centre of Excellence, and the significant investment will accelerate the foundation's applied research in caring for aging seniors and veterans. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
I came across this story this morning when I was getting ready for the show, and I was looking at the Vancouver Sun newspaper, and I thought, oh boy, I hope none of the environmental lefties at Ottawa City Hall are reading the Vancouver Sun this morning. Or I could see this becoming an issue at Ottawa City Hall, because, sometimes what happens in Vancouver doesn't stay in Vancouver. Ideas tend to migrate east. So this is in the Vancouver Sun this morning. Vancouver city staff is recommending, quote, the city have a pollution charge of $500 or $1,000 a year for owners of new gas-powered vehicles, including trucks, large SUVs, and luxury cars, beginning with the 2023 model year. The money will be, quote, used to further its climate emergency action plan. And joining us this morning for some insights, some reaction from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, longtime friend and colleague of mine, Kris Sims, on City News this morning. Kris Sims, good morning.
Good morning, Rob. Great to hear your voice.
It's so great to hear from you this morning. Thanks for coming on the show. Tell me about this pollution charge. What's behind this pollution charge?
Well, it's bureaucrats and the pointy heads at Vancouver City Hall. And as you point out, a lot of strange ideas start out this way on the West Coast, and they spread like spores out east. So do take note, my friend. So this is all part of this gigantic plan. I think it was 370-something pages that bureaucrats brought forward to the politicians, I would say about 2 months ago, and it's part of this. So as of right now, they're proposing between $500 and $1,000 per year for an extra on-street parking charge for a vehicle that's brand new, and that's particularly an SUV or a pickup truck. The catch here, Rob, is of course it never stops there. The moment they latch on to that sort of bloodstream, they will start moving the goalpost and dropping the age of the car down. So this will inevitably start hitting people who drive more affordable and older cars. Basically, this is Vancouver's war on the car, and this is just another front.
Yeah, in reading the Vancouver Sun, it's kind of it's part of a big package to, not only crack down on gas-powered vehicles, but really crack down on parking and on-street parking as well. Lots of fees for that, too, by the sounds of things.
For
right?
sure.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's going to be start at $45, and then it's going to escalate from there. And we need to keep in mind that these aren't folks who are, driving and parking on major arteries. They're not blocking traffic. If you just picture a quiet, sleepy little cul-de-sac that you'd have, say, in Alta Vista, for example, they want to start just nuking people with these parking taxes and parking fees there. And again, right now they're setting the bar at a certain amount, but that they're just going to start hitting people with older vehicles and higher fees the moment they get their foot in the door, because again, this is part of a big anti-car push. And the other element of it is they want to actually start building a toll wall around downtown Vancouver and charging people tolls in order to enter the downtown core on streets that have existed for about 200 years.
Cordon fees, that'll be the next thing, the cover charge to get into Vancouver.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And you know what? With COVID and everything that's happened, it's really hollowed out the core anyway. I mean, I don't know really any small businesses that are doing well. And now just imagine if you have to be delivering your goods and services outside the wall. So this is all part of it.
What do they say they're going to do with this money? I mean, I read they're going to put it into their climate emergency action plan. They got to have an action plan, but I mean, what's involved with that?
That's exactly what they're saying they're going to do. Usually what that means is blocking off more lanes for vehicles and building bike lanes.
Right.
It's already, and I must say, I grew up out here on the West Coast before I spent a lot of time there in Ottawa. Vancouver used to be able to get around it pretty well. It was a lot like Calgary that way with major arteries. Now, it is almost impossible to drive downtown, depending on if it's bike lanes or never-ending construction, or they've just blocked off the road for pedestrians forever.
Right.
It's very difficult to navigate a vehicle in downtown Vancouver. And yeah, they're going to supposedly put this money into fighting climate change. But I'll point out, we started the carbon tax out here too. We've got the highest one in Canada. Our emissions are going up, not down. So it's a big, expensive failure. Politicians will tell you anything. If they say it's going to save the planet, how can you argue with this tax?
Yeah, and as you say, right now they're saying, well, it's only for brand new cars. And it's only for big ones, the big SUVs and the trucks, and they throw in a little class warfare in there as well, right? And the luxury cars, cars. Inevitably, it'll be, we said 2023 cars only, but, now maybe we'll expand it to 5-year-old vehicles, right?
Why not 10?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And all of them, not just trucks and SUVs and luxury cars. But
this will happen. This will eventually happen to all of them. And we need to remember also, Vancouver is one of the least affordable places to live on Earth, between rent and car insurance costs and gas taxes. If you add up all of our gas taxes here, Rob, it's around 68 cents a liter. Like, the pump price is around $157 down there right now. It's crazy pants. Wow. And so just imagine if you're parking on the street and you've got your pickup truck, it's usually because you're renting the basement suite and the owner of the house gets to have the garage. You're going to be the one paying this fee because you're parking on the street with your pickup truck before you go to work.
Plus, they say, well, it's a pollution charge of $500 to $1,000 a year. Now, you're with the Taxpayers Federation. First somebody has to make $1,000 a year to be able to pay $1,000 a year, which is really, in gross income terms, Kris, you'd have to make $1,500 in order to pay the $1,000. Right?
That's right. That's your after-taxes fee.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so this just keeps adding up. And what these politicians and bureaucrats seem to forget is that there's only one taxpayer. You can only get so much money out of a single individual, and they seem to ignore all of the other financial burdens placed on that person's shoulders. And there's a lot of judginess when it comes to using a vehicle in Vancouver. When I raised this issue online, I actually had somebody refer to vehicles as exoskeletons.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Kris Sims, the troglodyte. Sure. Okay.
You might remember me in my bike helmet.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. People who don't know who you are, don't know that when you were in Ottawa, you biked everywhere, right?
Yes,
bike to and from work and everything. So let me ask you, just while I have you on the line, because here in Ottawa, we've got this $400 million announcement. We're going to electrify our bus fleet. We're full steam ahead or what have you with our light rail project because phase 1 went so well. We're building phase 2 right now. But nevertheless, people are really questioning, what's the future of public transit? When you are watching public transit in the municipalities on the West Coast, are you seeing a lot? Is there a debate going on about public transit? Are you seeing empty buses rolling around everywhere? What's your sense of things out there, Kris?
Ridership. So in Metro Vancouver, which stretches from Langley, folks might know that, all the way up to North Vancouver, they have something called TransLink, which is like OC Transpo out there. Yeah. And it's actually the tax on your gasoline to pay for this thing is 18.5 cents a liter within Metro Vancouver.
Okay.
It's one of the reasons why it's so expensive. And so, yes, ridership has dropped off largely because of COVID. But as you point out there, same thing here. They're going full steam ahead with a massive subway dig that connects kind of downtown Vancouver out to UBC. So that's mostly going to be students and workers that work at the university using that. But we've seen a big drop. But we also don't have the commuter rails that I know a lot of you folks have been wanting out to Kanata and Orleans. We don't have that out here either. So folks who are trying to save money on rent and mortgage are living out in the burbs. Same thing as out there. And they got nowhere to go but in their vehicles. And the fees for those vehicles just keep going up.
Okay. Pollution charge. I wonder if we added it up, how many pollution charges we're paying already, Kris.
I'll give you an
when you think about it.
For example, the carbon tax, the first carbon tax, because we have 2 out here.
You have 2 already. Okay.
Yeah, it's a special fee that they tuck into the fuel regulations, and it's hidden. It's around 14 cents a liter. But the first carbon tax that everybody knows about is 10 cents a liter. So our emissions keep going up and up and up. They've gone up 11% over the past 4 years, and every year they're now taking around $2 billion.
Wow.
That's just in BC and just in the carbon tax.
Yeah. And now if you live in the municipality of Vancouver, if this goes ahead, there would be another pollution charge.
That's right. Plus whatever road toll that they shove through.
Plus whatever road toll. Yeah.
And keep in mind, we need to pay for this, right? So this isn't free to wander around Vancouver and check every single car that's parked on the street to make sure that it's brand new or has some sort of a sticker or a QR code or whatever. They're going to have to hire an army of people.
Yeah. Administration, bureaucrats, and this sort of thing.
It'll all come out in the wash. They might make 15% on it. So
very interesting. Hey, great to hear your voice always.
Likewise.
Thank you, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
From the Canadian Taxpayers Federation in British Columbia. Pollution charge. $1,000 pollution charge. That's Kris Sims. Michael Crockatt, CEO, Ottawa Tourism. Coming up next, here on the Rob Snow Show, City News.
So the birth of Absinthe was 2002, I think, 2003, and I was working at Urban Bistro, Hubley, where Allan is now. And then the space where Holland Cafe was came up. It's on the corner of Spencer and Holland. And I spoke to the landlord, and there's a lot of interest from a lot of other people, but he and I just, got along super well, and he put a lot of faith in me. So Carmen Turner is his name. He gave me the lease to the place and really pretty much gave me all the equipment in the place. I was really lucky. I've been really lucky with landlords that way, actually, both my current landlord and Carmen Turner. Because if there hadn't been Carmen Turner, there wouldn't have been Absinthe. So we were there for a few years and just sort of outgrew the place. And then now we're here. It's obviously been tough, and it's been tough for everyone. I mean, that's been the big democratic sweep of in restaurants and the hospitality and the arts that we were talking about earlier. It's like everybody's been impacted pretty much the same. From everybody that I talked to, we're down 80%. We're climbing out now. I think one of the saddest things is we went down to 2 employees from 25, and we're now at 4, and we're bringing 2 new people on this week, so we'll be at 6. So it's little steps. So it's been tough. It's I've got the most expensive clubhouse ever here, because some days you come and you don't do any business, but you're here. But I'm grateful for what I do have. I think everybody's optimistic now, not necessarily just about the vaccine, but about the vaccine, spring, being able to be outside. I think you're going to see a lot of pop-up things happen in parking lots and on sidewalks and all, and like that, rather than being actually inside somebody's commerce. I think we'd like to take it outside. I know my staff would. My staff like the outdoors now, all of a sudden, all 4 of us. 6 soon. But we'll be doing some business in the patio in the parking lot, and we have a patio out front. And I hope other restaurants and stores will do the same. I hope that they take advantage of the sidewalk and doing sort of, guerrilla marketing and stuff like that, and really shaking it up a bit. You can find us at Absinthe Cafe at 1208 Wellington Street West in Hintonburg, and you can find us online at absinthecafe.ca.
Firm.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News 101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
Ottawa Tourism is one of the local organizations that is supporting a new project in Kanata North. It's called Hub 350. And Michael Crockatt is here, the CEO of Ottawa Tourism. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
Yeah, it's good to hear from you again. What is Hub 350?
Well, it's a great initiative from our friends at the Kanata North Business Association, who they're the home of Canada's largest technology park, with all these great businesses. A lot of them are homegrown, a lot of them, international businesses. And this is going to be a place a physical place where a lot of those businesses can come together with the leading academics in the community, other businesses in the community, and for us, it's a great opportunity for us to be engaged with some of those big businesses that are so important to Ottawa's economy.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking. Well, what does Ottawa Tourism have to do with the Kanata Technology Park? It's not like I'm going to hop in the car and, go for a sightseeing tour around the Kanata Technology Park. Ooh, there's my tell. It doesn't really work that way. But, of course, there are lots of people coming into Ottawa for all kinds of technology-related events, and those are the kinds of people you want to tap into, right?
Well, first of all, I love every neighborhood in Ottawa, and they are all worth visiting.
You are so kind. You are so kind.
You definitely should visit Kanata North for all your for leisure as well as for business. But yeah, this particular initiative is great because it gives us the opportunity to highlight just how broad the tourism industry is. It is family trips and summer vacations, but it's not just family trips and summer vacations. It's things like meetings and conventions and travel trade, tour operators, major events, sports. And I know you and I have talked about this already. Tourism is the hardest hit industry in this pandemic and is going to be the longest to recover. And that recovery is going to be uneven too. We're going to see leisure visitation come back quicker than meetings and conventions, for example. And this relationship is exactly about that, about helping that meetings and conventions part of the business, because there's so many experts that work at companies in Kanata North, these world-class companies with world-class leaders in their field.
Yep.
And we want to work with them to help showcase their expertise, showcase them as individuals and their companies, and help them bring conventions from their area of expertise to our community, because those conventions that bring 1,000 delegates or even a few hundred delegates, those have a huge economic impact. They're going to be an important part of our economic recovery.
Yeah. So this has come out of an initiative called Think Ottawa. Ottawa Tourism is part of that, along with Invest Ottawa, the Shaw Centre. Tell me a little bit more about that.
It's been in place for a couple of years now, and
okay.
with those fantastic partners, the Shaw Centre and Invest Ottawa, as you mentioned, and it really is trying to make those connections with the local post-secondary institutions, with professors, with researchers, and with those with business people in the community, to enable them again to showcase their expertise, and for us to help them, right? Because our job is to try and attract those events, and so we can do things like we can work with those experts on things like putting together a bid document to bring a convention to Ottawa, helping to fill in the gaps on things that they're not, because none of these people are event planners themselves, but they do have a chance to showcase themselves, their company, and of course our city. So I think Ottawa has been quite successful, and in fact earlier this year we put out an open letter to the community, to academic and business leaders, and the first response I got was from Jamie Patton from the Kanata North Business Association. She said, "How can we help?" And that really led to the discussions that have now come to fruition in this great agreement that we've got with Kanata North and with Hub 350. So it's a sign of how passionate people are and how passionate business people are in this community to try and help with that economic recovery that we're going to need here. And so really proud of the Think Ottawa program, proud of our team for having put together that program along with the Shaw and Invest Ottawa, and really proud of how this initiative has come together with our team and with Kanata North as well.
Michael, we've talked in the past about how important tourism is to the local economy, third largest industry in the capital, behind government, behind technology. I think it's 40 to 50,000 jobs. Am I in the right neighborhood there?
Yeah, about 43,000 in a normal year.
Yeah. Here we are. We've reached about the halfway point of 2021. How is the second half of the year looking, in your opinion, for tourism in the capital?
There's certainly reasons to be optimistic, and I think every time that we speak, we have a new number for how much of a negative impact this pandemic has had on our sector. And I will tell you that the businesses and the people who work in those businesses are so ready for a full, safe reopening. And I say full, not necessarily all at once, but they are ready. They're ready to do their part to keep the community safe. You'll see businesses, tourism businesses in our community strongly encouraging our citizens to make sure they get vaccinated, because they know that is the path to economic recovery for the tourism sector. So we do see some signs of positivity in terms of bookings for the summer. Nowhere close to normal. I don't want to give anybody the impression that we're going to be back to normal this summer, because it's not going to be the case. We're not going to have enough open, and we won't have the benefit of those meetings, conventions, and sport events and festivals. But there are some signs of leisure visitation and hopefully some visiting friends and relatives that are going to pick up this summer to levels that will hopefully exceed what we saw last year and put us on the path to getting back to our more traditional numbers. But we do need those other parts of the tourism sector and the visitor economy to recover as well. And those are going to have different paces, like we talked about. But we're optimistic, and we know that people want to travel. People will want to explore again, and there's no place like this city for people to come and have that real Canadian experience too.
I've been told in the past that when you look at Ottawa and where people from other countries, where they're coming from to come to Ottawa, the number one source country for tourists to Ottawa is the United States, right? Well,
Canadians are the number one source, but yes,
Canadians number one source, but international travelers, So what is how just devastating is it to have the U.S. border closed?
It's significant, for sure. That is a huge source market for all Canadian destinations, for sure. When we talked about this probably about a year ago, one of the things that I say we in terms of the industry, the Canadian tourism industry, talking about it, one of the things we knew that we had to do to try and make up for that loss of international visitation, whether it's from the U.S. or elsewhere, was ensure that Canadians who would have traveled internationally otherwise would change their plans and travel domestically. And that's still a bigger priority for us, at least this summer, is encouraging Canadians to get out and explore their country, and encouraging us to travel as well, but also encouraging Ottawa residents to invite other people from Canada to come and visit them here in Ottawa as well. But no question about it, if once the U.S. border opens and people can travel safely again, we do expect that to have a positive impact on our international visitation again, for sure.
Okay. All the best. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah. The CEO of Ottawa Tourism, that's Michael Crockatt. The notwithstanding clause has now been used in the province of Ontario by the Doug Ford government, the first time in the province's history. It's created a lot of backlash, and we'll talk about it coming up next with Andrea Horwath, the leader of the opposition in the Ontario legislature, the leader of Ontario's New Democrats. This is City News.
News in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, the 15th of June. Good morning. I'm Sarah Buchan. Right now in Ottawa, light rain, 15 degrees, cloudy skies, and 16 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news this hour. Ontario is committing $10 million to identify, investigate, and commemorate burial sites on the grounds of former residential schools in the province. The money will also go toward culturally appropriate mental health support for residential school survivors, their families, and communities. Premier Doug Ford announced the funds today with Indigenous Affairs Minister Greg Rickford and Indigenous leaders. The announcement comes after what are believed to be the remains of 215 children found at a former residential school in Kamloops. Ontario says its process for investigating school sites will be established with Indigenous leaders and will involve archaeologists, forensic specialists, historians, and other experts. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission identified 12 locations of unmarked burial sites in Ontario, and the province says there are likely more. Provincial health officials report 11 new cases of COVID-19 in Ottawa out of 296 new cases across Ontario. There were 13 new deaths in the province due to COVID-19. Elsewhere locally, no new cases in Leeds, Grenville, Lanark, Renfrew County, or Eastern Ontario. The numbers out of over 17,000 tests, the test positivity rate at 2.3%. City of Ottawa is reaching out to residents who received their first vaccinations at rural clinics and who still need a second dose appointment. Public Health will call you this week to book your second dose appointment at a rural pop-up clinic between June 20th and 25th. The rural clinics will be set up at RJ Kennedy Memorial Arena, West Carleton High School, South Carleton High School, and Metcalfe Arena. These clinics require appointments. They are not pop-up, show-up. You shouldn't show up without an appointment. The rural pop-up clinics are only for residents who've been directly contacted by Ottawa Public Health. I'm Sarah Buchan for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
So the Ford government has gone and done it. They've used the notwithstanding clause to pass a bill, Bill 307, and that bill will reintroduce amendments to the Elections Finances Act. Important because a judge struck down those amendments as unconstitutional just last week, and now we have the notwithstanding clause used for the very first time in the history of the province of Ontario. And we're gathering political reaction this morning from the leader of the official opposition, the leader of Ontario's New Democrats, Andrea Horwath. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob. Good morning.
So what do you think about what happened this week?
First and foremost, I think this is just a desperate attempt by Doug Ford to muzzle people who are unhappy with the way that he's been running the province. His big cuts and his problematic choices, his bad choices, have led to real harm in our province. And whether we're talking about those 4,000 seniors that lost their lives in long-term care and the families who are trying to address, getting justice for their loved ones, or whether it's parents of children with autism who have pretty much been just really ignored by this government, or whether it's parents of school kids who have seen their kids out of school more than any other children in the entire country. People have some things to say about Doug Ford's performance, and he wants to muzzle them in a desperate attempt to hang on to power. I think that's what's going on here. And using the notwithstanding clause when what they could have done just as easily is brought in legislation, with amendments, changes that would have satisfied the judge's problems or the judge's criticism of their initial bill. They chose to use a sledgehammer instead. If they'd have brought something reasonable in legislation, we could have easily passed it, within a day. But instead, they chose this really, really, really blunt tool that literally takes away people's rights and freedoms that are protected under our charter. No government should do that willy-nilly, but Doug Ford, that's his way of doing things.
Okay, what is your party's position on limits for special interest groups and advertising during election campaigns and in the run-up to election campaigns? Because it was actually, you remember it used to be the Wild West and there were no limits at all. and then the Wynne government passed some limits, and then they were extended by the Ford government. What's your party's position on that?
I do remember, and of course, the Wynne Del Duca government did pass changes because they got caught with the odious cash for access scandal, and they were forced to do something because they just looked so bad in terms of cabinet ministers, being feted by high-paying lobbyists and people who had the interest in trying to get the government's ear. So that's why we had legislation passed by the Wynne government. But even then, I was urging the Premier at the time, Kathleen Wynne, not to just individually or on her own decide what the new rules should be. The democracy that we have is one that we should all be able to feel confident in. And so anytime there's changes to the way that we operate that democracy, it should be a process that engages all of us, not just political parties, but experts and stakeholders as well. And Kathleen Wynne started us down this odious slope, and Doug Ford is just taking it to the next level. But the reason that Doug Ford is doing it is because he also wants to hold on to power, and he wants to muzzle his critics, and he's doing it in the most vicious way because he also has a bad habit of vindictiveness and going after people that disagree with him. He did that with Toronto City Council. You might remember this is the first time that he tried to use the notwithstanding clause.
Okay, the government's line is we don't want the moneyed elite to control the narrative of election campaigns, whether that's well-financed union groups, whether that's multinational corporations or the billionaire class. What would you say to that?
Well, what Doug Ford's not telling you is that, in fact, he has brought back cash for access. So one of the things that he did is bring back exactly that terrible regime that Kathleen Wynne had abused so much. They've doubled the donations for, individual donations for political parties. They've basically brought back the same regime that Kathleen Wynne was trying to fix once she got caught with her hands in the cookie jar. So that's just balderdash. We've watched now as this Premier has been holding $1,500 a plate Zoom meetings, and coincidentally, next thing you know, some of those developers that participated in those Zoom meetings and paid top dollar are getting ministerial zoning orders signed off by the government. I mean, it has really gotten quite bad, and Doug Ford's taken it to a really bad place already. And now this is just going to, this is just going to attempt to, to silence the voices he doesn't like, but to make sure that the ones that support him are able to give him as much money as they possibly can.
Are you telling me $1,500 for a Zoom call? I don't even get a rubber chicken dinner for that? Or?
Yeah, not even a rubber chicken dinner. Maybe when things open up, you can get the rubber chicken dinner.
So walk us through what the New Democrats tried to do this week to forestall the passage of this bill.
Yeah, well, Rob, it's really tough these days because the Conservatives and the Liberals have really hamstrung the opposition in terms of tools. You might recall back in the day we've had some pretty amazing filibusters. There was one famous one where Peter Cormos filibustered for about 3 days straight. We can't do that anymore. The rules have been changed to prevent that. One of the things we used to be able to do, and Doug Ford took it away, is bring in something called a reasoned amendment to any bill. And what that does is that then we have to debate the amendment, so it eats up time. And there are other things as well. I mean, it used to be that a government couldn't call the same bill for debate on the same day. So you call the bill once, you debate it until that time frame is over, and then you can't call it again until a following sessional day. The Conservative government took that away as well. Okay. And so the point that we were trying to make in trying to stall things off was to give people a sense of what was going on, because not only did they bring this legislation to invoke the notwithstanding clause, but they brought it literally in the dark of night on a weekend when everything was opening up, in Ontario. And so it's really obvious that the government wanted to ram this through in the dark of night and prevent as much notice as possible, or as much awareness as possible amongst Ontarians. And I mean, I think that just puts an exclamation mark on how desperate Doug Ford is to try to hide his record and silence the voices that are very aware of how harmful that record has been to our kids and to our seniors, to our education system, to the environment. I mean, it's been a pretty bad run so far, and he just doesn't want everyday voters to know about it.
Andrea Horwath is with me here on the Rob Snow Show on City News. I want to ask you about something else that's we've been kind of booting it around on the show this week, and that is the frustration that a lot of people are experiencing in trying to book appointments for second doses of vaccine. The eligibility requirements for second doses, the time frame is narrowing, from 16 weeks. The wait time is not that long. Age eligibility requirements have been lowered, but there's a lot of frustration in many parts of the country about people trying to book appointments online, and they think it's a very frustrating process. What do you say about that? How it's going with the booking process?
Here in Ontario, it's going terribly. I mean, and you would think that the government would have learned. You would think that the government would have put together some kind of rollout of the vaccines that made sense and that was well communicated and that was smooth and logical. That didn't happen in round one of the vaccines, and shockingly, here we are for second doses, and it's the same story over again. People are frustrated. Some people are calling it the Hunger Games 2.0. If you're lucky and you're well kind of attuned to how to get through the nonsense, and if you happen to have a lot of time to be online and
time if you're willing to travel, if you want to travel an hour or whatever, right? Yeah,
I know it's just crazy, and travel in some cases you're traveling from a community that's maybe got very low rates of COVID into a hotspot to get your vaccine. I mean, how much sense does that make? So it's really troubling that the government didn't invest the money in the vaccines when all through the summer they kept saying when the vaccines are going to be the silver bullet, more or less, right? They didn't have an iron ring around long-term care. They literally waited till January when they could vaccinate seniors, but 4,000 people died because they didn't want to spend the money to protect them. So when vaccines were really their only hope against this virus, to not be able to have a smooth rollout of those vaccines was really something that's a disservice to Ontarians. And now people are in a scramble, and there's still confusion. People are uncertain as to what to do. I'm an AstraZeneca first dose. Right? I don't know what I'm going to do at this point. I was reading articles again this morning, trying to figure out, should I go for a second dose of a different vaccine? Should I stick with AZ? Should I call my doctor and waste her time? These are things that people are telling me that they're doing as well. And it's just so confusing and really problematic. That's not what we deserve. And with the Delta variant, the last thing we need is people to be frustrated that they just don't bother and just wait it out, and because that's not going to help, right?
Okay. Thank you for your time this morning, Andrea Horwath. Stay well.
My pleasure. You too, Rob.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
opinionated Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
The federal government's legal challenge of a pair of rulings involving First Nations children torn from their families by a chronically underfunded childcare system headed to federal court this week, despite repeated calls for the cases to be dropped in the name of reconciliation. Cindy Blackstock is executive director of the First Nations Child and Family Caring Society, filed the original human rights complaint 14 years ago. Joins me this morning here on City News. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what's it like this week for you?
Well,
14 years fighting this.
It's so disappointing to see the federal government continuing to fight against First Nations children when it's already been found by the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal to be racially discriminating against them and ordering them to stop. And that actually was in alignment with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's top 3 calls to action. And yet the federal government, as it has always done in this whole 14 years, is fighting against every step to progress forward to equity for First Nations kids and justice for First Nations kids. It just feels like they say one thing and then they do something completely different when it comes to the rubber hitting the road for little children.
Okay, so let's talk about the rubber hitting the road. 14 years ago, you obviously hit a point where you said, well, the rubber's got to hit the road. What was that complaint about?
That complaint was to deal with the inequitable provision of federally funded child welfare services and other public services for kids. What your listeners may not know is that the federal government funds these services for First Nations and has done so inequitably since Confederation. That's why, when you see water, there's no water on reserve. That's part of that problem.
Right.
And we had worked with the government for the decade prior, documenting the inequalities and showing how these inequalities were contributing to families not being able to recover from residential school trauma and having less of an opportunity to stay safely together, and so their kids were ending up in overrepresented rates in child welfare. When the feds didn't do anything with those reports other than send nice letters saying how they were going to review the reports, we felt we had to take action because, Bill, during that 10 years when we were sitting at that table, the number of First Nations kids going into care owing to these inequalities increased 71.5%. That was the price of being patient with the federal government. The kids were paying it.
Okay. Another ruling expands Jordan's principle. And I would like if you could explain in the most basic terms possible what that principle is, Jordan's principle. What is
that? Well, what happened is Jordan River Anderson is the founder of that. And he was a little kid in hospital, and he had to stay there for 2 years. But he's a First Nations kid. So when it came time to discharge him into a family home, the province of Manitoba said, well, he's First Nations, the feds can pay. And the feds argued amongst all these different departments. The bottom line is they left that little boy in the hospital for 2.5 years while they argued over who would pay. And if he was non-Indigenous, he would have gone home, and the province of Manitoba
and the province would have paid, and that would have been the end of it.
That would have been it.
Yeah.
But as it was, he dies in a hospital, never spending a day in a family home. And this was happening to kids all over the country, not just for healthcare, education, other services too. So we went to the House of Commons. It was unanimously adopted in 2007, but then the feds did nothing. They didn't implement it. And so it was part of this legal hearing too. And in 2016, the tribunal found Canada's provision of inequitable child welfare services racially discriminatory, as well as its failure to implement Jordan's principle discriminatory.
Right. And ordered compensation, right?
And it ordered Canada to cease this discriminatory conduct, and then it said we're going to order compensation. So we had more hearings after that because Canada paraded out a bunch of ministers to welcome the decision and then did nothing again. So we're now up to 19 non-compliance and procedural orders against the federal government in this case. Wow. And one of the orders linked Canada's non-compliance to the deaths of 3 children. And so the tribunal said,
Since the rulings, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Since the ruling.
Right.
Since the rulings,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
And so the tribunal has said, look, at every point along this, the federal government knew it was funding these services inequality. They knew that it was harming children and contributing to their deaths. Then they didn't do the right thing. So the maximum we can award under the Canadian Human Rights Act is $40,000 for each of these kids. And that's what we're going to order. And then Canada doesn't want to pay that. And so they're trying to quash that order in federal court today. And my question to the Prime Minister is, if $20,000 is too much to pay for a First Nations child losing their life or being unnecessarily taken away from their families, then what does he think that's worth?
My understanding is, and I'd like your reaction, and by all means, a lot of us in the media are playing catch up on a lot of these issues, as I'm sure you appreciate. The Indigenous Services Minister, Mark Miller, says that the compensation should be more proportional based on the harms suffered. What do you think about that as an argument?
Well, I agree with that, but okay. I'd say $40,000 is the floor. Pay out the $40,000.
Right. It's not the floor, it's the ceiling, right?
Yeah, well, they're making it the ceiling. Absolutely.
They're making it the ceiling. Yeah.
They're making it the ceiling. They don't want to pay this. And that's the problem. But what I say is you behaved yourself into this big bill. And they're arguing in court. They're saying, individual victims of systemic discrimination, they shouldn't get any compensation. Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, that would mean that poor family in London, Ontario wouldn't get anything. George Floyd's family wouldn't get anything. Joyce Echaquan's family wouldn't get anything. And discriminators would be able to get out of accountability if they hurt more people. And that's not a legal precedent we need in this country.
They're also arguing that the Human Rights Tribunal basically turned the case into a class action lawsuit when it shouldn't have been a class action lawsuit awarding individual compensation. What do you think about that?
Right. It's not the tribunal that's changing it into a class action. Canada keeps on saying, we want to pay these funds via class action. There's no mention of class action in the arguments. And these are human rights damages that are actually allowed right under the legislation, Canadian Human Rights Act, that was passed by Parliament itself. And it includes that compensation piece. So, the fact that Canada might have broken a whole pile of laws does not allow it to obfuscate its responsibilities to fulfill the order under the Canadian Human Rights Act.
Were you encouraged at all? I'm not sure how you're going to answer this. The House of Commons passed a motion that was brought forward by the New Democrats, and it passed it unanimously, although the cabinet abstained, saying drop all legal action against First Nations children and survivors. It passed it, but then here we are this week, and it's, for you, I'm sure it must be like Groundhog Day for the 14,000th time, right? So.
It feels that way, but you know what? I was so grateful about that motion was not so much what happened in the House of Commons, but was carrying Canadians all over the country.
Right.
I think people, when they saw those 215 kids, it really humanized the horror of this thing. And they want this nonsense to stop, right? And they're starting to tune into the political rhetoric and say, that sounds like a lot of bafflegab. I want to look at the facts. And when they look at the facts, they got a hold of their members of parliament and they said, drop this legislation or this litigation against kids and residential school survivors. And there were people on social media, some of them for the very first time, contacting their member of parliament and say, if you litigate these cases, you do not do so in my name, and I will remember you at the next federal election. And that's what the kind of momentum that we really need to see continue and, in fact, to grow, because Canada has shown itself to be unable to change its behavior when it comes to First Nations kids.
You really do think there's been an awakening?
Yeah.
You really do? Yeah.
I do, and I've been around a long time.
Yeah.
People,
no, but that's encouraging if that's actually happening, because sometimes, well, the history has been First Nations issues are, they're hot and they're front and center and people care.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of fade away and people forget about it. So it would be encouraging if it actually was different this time.
It feels different this time.
Okay.
That's good. You know what it feels different is that I've seen Canadians kind of do things, take action as a result of it, right? Like we see the stories about the water and people care and they say, how the heck can this happen in Canada? But in this case, people were actually, they were going out and learning more about First Nations. They were coming to ceremonies to recognize these kids. They were calling their member of parliament. They were doing stuff. And it was really, really, really appreciated. We just need to make sure that they don't look away.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV.